The meeting of the Shreveport City Council is now called to order. I recognize Reverend Howard Hall, pastor of Shreveport Baptist Temple, to lead us in the invocation. And Councilman Willie Bradford will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for another day that you have given us, Lord, to live. We do pray for this meeting today. We know that these men and these ladies are here because of a divine appointment. We pray today that you would bless the city of Shreveport, Louisiana. Thank you for the progress and pray for your blessings today upon every decision. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's face the flag and repeat the pledge in unison. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Bradford.
Present.
Councilwoman Fuller. Present. Councilman Nicholson.
Present.
Councilman Butcher.
Here.
Councilman Floyd.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilman Bowman.
Is there a motion to approve
So
the minutes?
moved.
Second. Wait.
Motion by Councilman Green, James Green, and second by the Vice Chair. Any discussion? Please vote. And that motion has been approved by 6 and 1 out of the chamber. Does any council member have any awards, recognitions, or distinguished guests?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green.
I'd just like to recognize former Councilman Monty Warford. He's here today, and also Pastor C.J. Johnson, if he's not gone. He was here a few minutes ago. He was actually Councilwoman Fuller's guest, but he's my nephew, so I just thought I'd thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize retired Major General Jim Graves, who is present on behalf of the Airport Hangars Association. And as he approaches the podium, I'd like to remark briefly concerning our approval 2 weeks ago of a member of the Airport Authority. The individual we approved was, based on everything I'd heard about him, an acceptable choice for the Airport Authority. He was nominated and confirmed by a previous mayor and council. Mayor Perkins decided to nominate him for another term on the council, and I had no reason to think that he had done other than a very fine job. After that vote, General Graves and former Councilman Monty Wolf both contacted me and expressed concern about the fact that we had dispensed with the 2-week layover period that is typically required for nominees. There are occasions, I think, when dispensing with the 2-week layover period is appropriate, but I think we ought not do that in situations where we have any reason to think that a member of the public would like to express his opinion about that nominee. It certainly was not my intention 2 weeks ago to deprive the Hangars Association or any of their representatives of that opportunity, and for that reason I've asked General Graves and Councilman Walford, to make the remarks today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Nicholson. Chairman Fleury, members of the council, Mayor. My name is Jim Graves. I'm the president of the Shreveport Airport Hangar Owners Association, known by the acronym SAHOA. Our organization is one of the fastest growing institutions in our city, but unfortunately it was founded, quite frankly, as a last resort to protect some of your citizens from a department of their own government. But we continue to proclaim our hopeful motto: one great city, two great airports. With me today is former Councilman Monty Walford. Together, we want to thank Councilman Nicholson for the opportunity he gave us and the small fraction of our members who are with us today to enjoy this audience. Now, without implying any nefarious intent or even raising the hint of a suggestion, 2 weeks ago, as Councilman Nicholson says, this body took an action that effectively deprived an important constituency within our city of procedural due process. That is notice and an opportunity to be heard. In other words, basic fairness. We appear today in some small way to redress that. I will summarize what would have been said in hours of testimony, 3 minutes at a time. I will not, however, attempt to minimize the righteous opposition that you would have heard. It may not surprise you that there are some public officials in our city who display hostility to the constitutionally protected right of the people to free speech. They are dismissive of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances, even when in good order, as we are here today. The most egregious of these officials are the 4 previous administration holdovers on the Shreveport Airport Authority Board. The most vocal among these has unfortunately been Mr. Jonathan Reynolds. You need to look no further than the records of the Shreveport Airport Authority Board meetings and his comments here in the well of this chamber about how people get up to talk. These 4 have allowed nameless, unelected federal bureaucrats to run roughshod over the rights of your citizens and constituents by letting them impose an unproven, non-statutory, non-regulatory business model on their customers as if it were lawfully mandated. They have allowed themselves to be manipulated by a perversion of the airport improvement grant system without the courage or knowledge to question. They have literally allowed our interests and rights to be sold out to an overreach of bureaucratic power through the promise of federal largesse. We know better, and we demand better from our government officials. Those 4 have turned a blind eye to airport authority employee criminal misconduct, dishonest bookkeeping, the diversion of public funds to their own favorite causes, celebrations and concert tickets, and even profit-making enterprises. They have suborned ethical filings violations, open meeting law violations, and tampered with public records. Their decisions have resulted in the loss of 60% of the value of our investments at the Shreveport airports, as has been demonstrated by the recent devaluations of our properties by the Bossier and Caddo assessors. Instead, these 4 have perpetrated a false narrative advanced by the previous administration. I paraphrase from Mayor Tyler's remarks at the Real Estate Mayoral Forum at the East Ridge Country Club, that the airport tenants are freeloading off of this city, not paying their bills and violating our rules. They've set traps for us like the infamous inspection order to leave our properties unlocked and open for a week. Who among us would leave their home not only unlocked, but the door wide open, unattended, day and night for a week? And then they accuse us of being obstreperous. Nothing could be further from the truth, ladies and gentlemen. This narrative never was true. Wasn't true when Mayor Tyler said it. Wasn't true when Mr. Reynolds echoed it here 2 weeks ago with his comment about the tenants needing to be held to account. And it isn't true now. The overwhelming majority of the airport tenants meet their obligations to this city to the letter, to the penny, and to the minute. Like most in aviation, they pride themselves in following the rules and complying with applicable regulations. They are no more deserving of being held to account, as Mr. Reynolds stated here, for the actions of a few miscreants, then all of the law-abiding citizens of Shreveport are deserving of being locked up for the crimes of a few. These airport leaseholders are, in fact, the leading citizens of your city, the best educated, hardest working, most productive, and most contributing. I am proud to count myself in their number. A few of the customers of your airports have come on short notice to demonstrate their united opposition to the actions of the airport authority. Those of you who are here with the hangar owners, would you please identify yourselves to the council by standing? Those in the Hangar Owners Association and those in the airport community. Now, if you agree with me that this government by decree, government by dictate, mismanagement, and maladministration must stop and must stop now, would you please signify by raising your right hand? Ladies and gentlemen of the council, it appears that everyone in this community has raised their hand. Please be seated. The Airport Authority has forgotten that in America, public officials work for the people, not the other way around. They have also forgotten that we are a city that has an airport authority, not the other way around. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mayor Perkins, I urge you in the strongest terms to immediately initiate a council-directed independent audit of the Shreveport Airport Authority from base year 2016 to the present, to repudiate the misguided initiatives of this misled institution and return the ownership of our airports to its rightful place, the citizens of this city and community. The FAA's authority is over aeronautics, not economics. The SAA's role is to serve the citizens and manage public resources for the people, not rule over their subjects and confiscate their property. Economic policy and strategic guidance are the prerogative of the people and belong here in the people's chambers in open discussion, led by the people's elected representatives. If there is not a profound course reversal on the part of the Shreveport Airport Authority, the citizens of your city will have no choice but to cross the Rubicon and not turn back. I now ask to turn over the presentation to former Councilman Monty Walford for a moment, and I'd like to return for a closing comment. Mr. Walford.
I'm not going to be as eloquent as General Graves. I did communicate with several of you my disappointment in how you handle that confirmation. If we had had the opportunity to speak to you ahead of time, there were a number of questions that you really should have asked. Was this individual one of the 3 members of the 5-member board that ignored the ethics laws for 2 years? Would have been a fair question. I'm not going to, there are things I would have asked you to ask. I don't feel like I need to stand here and air them now. But I would have asked you to ask why the airport authority has taken it upon themselves to destroy the values. 60% reduction in the properties on both airports. That's not costing the airport authority a penny. They don't get tax money. You do. It's coming out of the Shreveport budget. Not only that, it's retroactive to 2019, so you owe everybody money. You're going to have to refund to them. It's also coming out of the schools in both parishes, law enforcement in both parishes, the libraries, the health department, the port of Caddo-Bossier, the jails, and the Red River Waterway Commission. And I'll bring up that last one because I believe one member of this body has worked with a Caddo commissioner trying to get the Waterway Commission to fund some airport improvements. I'm sure that's going to be interesting now that money has been taken out of their coffers by the actions of an appointed board. So those are the kind of things that I would have asked you to ask someone being confirmed for that position. And again, I can't overstate my disappointment in how it was done. It just didn't see the light of day. I don't think it's anything that any of you should be proud of. Perhaps you would have confirmed him anyway, but there are questions that should have been asked. He's leading you into a path over the next few months that's going to be very difficult for everybody. I think the mayor is aware of what I'm talking about. And we don't need to be there. If you would appoint people who will take the job seriously and know what they're doing, you'll have an economic engine again out there at both airports. Now you have nothing. There has been no construction since 2016. And the gentleman that did that introduced himself in a speech as the stupidest man in the city of Shreveport because he made the investment. You might have asked him why the city wants to take over ownership of the hangars and management when one of the hangars they own right now has had an airplane in it since October of 2017, and they've never collected a penny of rent. When I brought it up, it was like this. And when I did a public records request, I found they had communicated with each other, but nobody had done anything to collect the rent. We're talking $15,000 plus dollars. And they tell us the downtown airport's losing money, but they don't collect. We need to pay more, but they don't collect from other people. So those are the kind of things. I'm not talking about a character assassination on anybody, but somebody who's doing that job as one of a 5-member board that manages a $20 million business, you owed a better interrogation and a better study of the individual and what they've done before you put them back in that job for 5 years. So again, I'm disappointed. I've sat where you are. I know it's difficult at times, and I know things can go fast, and sometimes you don't like what the outcome was. I hope this is one of those times. But thank you very much for allowing us to come up.
Monty, let me clarify one thing. The mayor appoints and we confirm. Now, I take everything you say very seriously, but you got to look from my standpoint. Mr. Reynolds lived in my district. He was appointed by a mayor that was in my district. I have not received one text, email, anything concerning his performance in the. I agree with you 100%. We probably should have done. I agree with that. But when I was looking at it, I had nothing to the contrary to say that we shouldn't confirm it. And
But
so,
if you had
in my
given it-
defense, sir, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you had given it the 2 weeks, you would have. And
Yeah.
there's a reason that 2 weeks is in the council rules of procedure.
Okay, I understand.
And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Flory. I'm not beating on you.
I didn't make the motion to do that, but when it came to vote, I have no reason not to vote about a constituent in my district who had received none. But I understand what you're saying, the 2 weeks, and I duly note it, and I'll learn from it going forward, okay? That's all I can say.
Okay, could you say one
But
more
the
thing
mayor
for me,
appoints-
all of you?
The mayor appoints, and the city council confirmed. You said we appoint, but he appoints.
You do confirm.
Yeah,
I
okay,
understand that.
okay.
You will have another one next year. Please give it the light of day
Oh, I will.
and give us the opportunity to,
You have my commitment, sir.
that's all we can ask.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the time and the
Yes.
opportunity.
Thank you, Mike.
General?
Chairman, may I interrupt for a minute?
Yes, you can.
Excuse me, I'm
Excuse
sorry,
me, sir.
General Graves.
Suspend just a moment.
We are reaching capacity in the room. This seems to be a popular venue today. So can we all reconfigure like good Baptists and move to the front? Because we can't have everyone standing, the fire marshal is going to intervene. There are empty seats. We can either get closer to our friends, our neighbors, and make seats on the aisles, or we can raise our hand and let people see where seats are available.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
I don't think they like my joke about Baptists.
I'm on the board.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Councilman
Suspend
Fuller.
just a moment, please. I'd like to recognize Councilman Green at this time.
I'll wait until.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think your crowd of hangar owners are going to vacate as soon as you get rid of me, sir.
Okay,
I promise.
Councilman Green has the floor.
Thank you. I just want to say I voted on what was before me, and I understand you said that the people that you brought with you are the best and the brightest of the city. And you said including yourself. I'm not one of those, but I have good common sense, and so all I know is everybody up here who spoke well of Mr. Reynolds on last week. There was not one bad comment. And I don't know if in your last closing, it seemed as though in the process you was threatening as to y'all was going over the river. I didn't get that part, the closing part. On your statement, you said something
About a Rubicon.
about a Rubicon.
The Rubicon.
I'm not one of the smartest and the brightest, so if you could break that down for me so that I'd understand.
There's somewhat of a double entendre in that, sir. And it's this. The word Rubicon means in ancient Latin, Red River.
Okay,
Okay? But it also means that a barrier a boundary, once it is crossed, cannot be turned back.
okay,
And that is its historic meaning from when Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC.
okay.
These folks are upset enough after 3 years
Okay.
that they're ready to cross that
Okay,
Rubicon.
so here again, and I understand about the Rubicon now, but, and of course, like you said about the Rubicon, but Jesus says, forgive and you shall be forgiven. Thank you.
We're going to work on that.
Thank you, sir.
The chair, suspend just a minute. The chair now recognizes Councilman Butcher.
General Graves.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Walford, thank you for coming. And you know, I read y'all's emails. I do want to say I'm someone like Councilman Fleury. Since I've been sitting here for the last year and a month, the mayor's made several appointments. And most of those appointments I've agreed with. I can't think of maybe once or twice that I haven't agreed with his appointments. He is the appointing authority. We're the ones that confirm that. Unless I have something to the contrary, and yes, we move too fast. And if I could take it back, I would.
I wouldn't.
You know, I just feel like we probably did move too fast on that. But having said that, to give, and you're right, even if we took the 2 weeks, he most likely would have been confirmed anyway, you know, possibly. So I think that the issues that we're bringing up here, I want us as a council and the administration to try to address the Hangar Owners Association in a more respectful manner to be able to get to the bottom of what y'all need. I'm not quite sure that there is a solution to the problem, and I feel pretty, Councilman Nicholson and I have spoken about this on numerous occasions. This is probably one of the most complex issues in my mind that we as a city have to work on. So I just want to tell you that, you know, and there's nothing that Mr. Reynolds has done to me. We did ask him questions. I want to go on the record for that. There were several questions that were asked of Mr. Reynolds. But as far as suspending the rules, I feel like maybe I made a mistake by doing that. Don't know if my vote would have changed because I typically go with what the mayor suggests on these board appointments. But I just wanted to tell y'all that I do understand where you're coming from. I understand where all you Hangar Association is coming from, and I think that we need to do a better job as the city and the city council to work with y'all to try to get your problems resolved.
Well, sir, I believe, as Councilman Green said, that forgiveness is within us, all of us. But in order to do that, the airport authority is going to have to stand down from government by decree and dictate. And that is all they have done. They have not negotiated with us. They have not listened to us other than 3 minutes at a time when we get up and are abruptly cut off in the meetings. if we could redirect the airport authority, Mayor, to have a more open process and to be more willing to accept the interests of its citizens, not just its bureaucrats, we might make some progress on this. I just wanted to close by saying I was moved by Councilman Bradford's comments last night. Councilman Bradford, I'm aware of your incredible credentials as a foot soldier in the civil rights movement earlier in the last century to bring us together as a nation of equals in an inclusive and diverse society. You may not pick me out of a lineup as being one of your comrades in that, but in the 1960s I was assisting with that in Virginia in working against what they called the public accommodation laws at that time. We have struggled since then to not have the same people treated differently. But sometimes we have different people treated in very bad ways. We are right now, as we stand before you, having our property confiscated by an organ of government of the city of Shreveport without compensation and converted to public property. I would warn my friends over here, be careful. If that's economic development, you don't want that. But if it is economic development to do the opposite, and that is to take public property and donate it, I don't want to put my thumb on the scale one way or the other with my friends here, but if that is a path to economic development, then take the liability, which is the Shreveport downtown airport, and the underperforming assets in the general aviation areas of the Shreveport Regional Airport, and give them to us. And you will see that we will take that same energy and that management skill and that experience in aviation, and you will have an economic boom in your city, Mayor, driven by the airports and driven by other people with skill and enterprise. And that's when I refer, Councilman Green, to the good people in the airport community. There are lots of good people in Shreveport, but the people who are out there at the airports are people who have really proved their worth to this community and their willingness to invest in it. And we want nothing more than to continue to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Councilman Nicholson. Thank you for the invitation. Mayor, thank you for your indulgence. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman Fleury, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, before you leave, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
Councilman Bradford has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, I appreciate you coming in and making the expressions that you did. Bonnie, you know we've been friends, but I agree that we have not heard the depth of the concerns that you expressed today. Let me back up and say, General, I appreciate the remarks, your kind remarks regarding where we are and how we can move forward. I'm familiar with your name and your works, and I appreciate your service as well. But you expressed some concerns. You named one individual, but I was under the impression that you was almost saying that the board itself is somehow a concern. Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir, and it is, and I don't mean to single out Mr. Reynolds. As a matter of fact, Mr. Reynolds and I have been social friends. He is on the guest list at Barksdale Air Force Base among civic leaders, and I always look forward to visiting him at programs at the base. Okay. But the 4 holdovers from the Ollie Tyler administration continue to act out that false narrative that the tenants have done something wrong. The problems at our airports aren't caused by the tenants. Okay. They're caused by the management.
Right. And let me say that the council members who spoke earlier regarding our confirming Mr. Reynolds somewhat expeditiously was not unusual. And the reason it wasn't unusual is because Mr. Reynolds was up for reappointment, and that no opposition or no real concerns or criticism of his position on the airport authority was ever brought into question or anything. So we felt comfortable by him being a reappointment that he would the reappointment would have been advantageous to continue the work that was going on. But I will say, General and Monty, that this council have options. You requested that some inquiries be made. We do have options. I want to hear, in fairness, from some of the board members and get their input. And speaking with the administration, this council has investigative powers, so we have other ways of getting information and bringing some remedy to some of the concerns that you expressed. And I think we have the fortitude to do that. After hearing you and bringing the congrats from the airport, who has hangars and other business interests out there. So we heard you. We're gonna be cautious from here on out as far as reconfirming somebody out of order. But to suspending the rules, put it in order. So I'm not feeling bad about that. But I am very receptive to what you said and very interested in hearing a little bit more, so we can look at what actions this body can take to at least bring some resolve to your concerns.
We would appreciate that, sir.
Thank you, General.
That's one of our requests.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And I maybe use my general officer's entry card with the captain over here to get to him a little faster on future things. All right.
There's a chain of command here.
The chair now recognizes Councilman Green.
Sir, did you say there were 4 that was causing, did you say the 4?
The 4, yes.
But you
Yes,
only
sir.
But there's
a
as for our record, would you name the 4 as you've named Mr. Reynolds?
I do reluctantly with the addition that I have no personal ill will against any of them, nor do any of us. They are in fact social friends, but the 4 are Chairman Waynette Ballingy,
Okay,
former Chairman Margaret Sheehy,
okay.
Jonathan Reynolds, who I just mentioned, and Dr. Mary Jackson. Those are the 4 holdovers from the previous administration. The mayor appointed former councilman Oliver Jenkins to the board late last year, and I find that the combination of his experience, having sat here on the dais with you, and of course his background in aviation as a former Marine Corps fighter pilot.
Yes, may I finish what I was about to
Yeah.
say? So
He's done very well.
When the mayor was attempting to replace them some time ago last year, then you all never showed up to give him any support as to. I don't have anything on the record that you all were down here.
No, sir.
So you all are down here now. But I'm talking about when the mayor was going through this fight, the attorney general and whatever, the eloquent speech that you all have made today, the support that you all have brought today, you all did not bring it then. So therefore, I was unaware. Maybe the mayor knew, maybe other members knew, but I didn't know all of whatever you are saying today. I hear it today. I see the support today. But when we had the battle that we was going to have lawsuits and whatever, then we were just here. And so finally, the mayor just decided, I'll let him speak for himself, to just let that go and we would fight another day. So that's what happened with that, because, you all didn't come down here then.
We had his back, yeah.
No, I mean, y'all got
Yeah.
it. Y'all had his back, but down here you needed his front, because he was getting beat to death. So thank you, sir.
Well,
All right, I'm good.
we're charging the hill today.
All right.
And that's all we wanted to do. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman, I'd like to make one comment. Mr. Bradford, I really like what you said. And Mr. Butcher, this is really easily solved, but it takes communication, and we have found that is absolutely impossible. As General Graves said, we can't do it 3 minutes at a time with no feedback. Now, each of you has been like me and sat in some very difficult situations over zoning and other things, and when the 2 sides can talk, issues can be ironed out and things can work. And that's one of the things that I'd like to see happen. But I think you're right. We let you know, and if you can let them know, and we can start coming together, we can solve it.
We have options. We will not in any way let this go unaddressed.
Negotiation is so much better than litigation.
But again, I'm interested to hear from the individuals that you mentioned, and we will do our best. We can't afford to allow these type of things to creep into our community.
Exactly.
I mean, the downtown airport is actually in my district.
Yes, sir.
And I'm happy that it's there, but I want it to be the best downtown airport we can have.
So do we.
And I want to have the best tenants that we can have. And I want the airport authority to be receptive to your concerns. And let's work together with this body and with the administration. And I think we can reach some resolve. We may not solve everything, but I think we can get to a point to where your voice will be heard in a way that the airport authority will respond to that. That's what we're going to try to do. Okay.
That's good to hear, and thank you again for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
We're on the mayor's calendar with the new airport director Thursday afternoon, and we'll start that journey then. Thank
The
you.
chair now recognizes the vice chair.
Thank
Hold
you,
up.
Chair. I actually think that might have satisfied my question because it was two parts. One was what will it take for you all to actually be satisfied? What will be a resolution potentially that you would be satisfied with? And the second question was to the mayor, and it was having a new airport director in place, the beginning of a new year, having your board settled as far as who is on the SAA board. Do you think that there's any reason to believe that we wouldn't be able to move forward in a productive manner?
No, I think the airport Director Davis's leadership should be a breath of fresh air to negotiations with the tenants. But I mean, this is a super complicated being. I mean, I had to drive 3 hours to Dallas and 3 hours back for an hour-long meeting with the FAA. And in that meeting, we found out that some things that we were told wasn't necessarily the law or by regulation. So we've been dealing with like misinformation, some historical frustrations, and but I think there's definitely a way that we can get to a common understanding and a positive way forward.
Do you believe that to some degree, and this is just institutionally, and you and I have only been watching this from the sidelines until we were elected, do you think that there has been a certain hands-off culture to a lot of the leadership boards in our community prior to some of the recent controversies that we've been facing?
Well, I would say for my administration, it's not hands-off. We're
But
pretty, yeah.
Do you feel like
We're
some of
pretty-
your boards had to kind of be coached into being a little more hands-on, though?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Some boards have to be more involved. It depends on the board. Some boards have to be way more involved than others. So it's board specific. But yes, this is a situation where board members can't afford to be on the sideline or be ignorant of policies. Everybody has to be pretty competent for us to get through this the right way.
So I would imagine with that said that the people that you have in place might be credible, but maybe didn't have the expectation of taking on such a hardcore leadership role prior to now.
It's possible. Yeah, it's very possible.
At least
I
a few of them-
haven't addressed them directly
Right.
with that particular question, but
Or
that's
at least
very
someone
possible.
that you would reappoint.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Let me leave you with this ray of hope. Mr. Davis and I had lunch together in Councilman Nicholson's district just yesterday, and we had a very productive visit, and look forward to our visit with you, Mayor, in your chambers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other council member have?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Brown.
Chairman, I just want to acknowledge I see some partners of the Gateway Cyber Group here. Would you just stand, those that are here? I just want to acknowledge your presence. Okay, thank you. And I just want to acknowledge that the majority of these partners are local residents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair.
I have a couple of resolutions and would ask that we suspend the rules, but I'd like to start with Resolution 9, and that is for our police officers. And I would ask that Chief Ben Raymond and his officers could come forward.
I second the motion that we suspend the rules, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules by Councilman Bradford, second, and Council Vice Chair motion. Any discussion? Would you please vote?
And this is for Corporal Marsden and several other officers. And I'm going to let you take it from here, Chief.
Thank you. And I'd like to start off, I have several recognitions today of officers in 2 different incidents, which is great. And I will try to move that along as quickly as possible.
Take your time and vamp because my other guests aren't here yet.
Well, then great, and I'll slow down a little bit. There you go. So I want to start off talking about an incident, and I'm going to call the officers to come up, and then if any of their supervisors would like to approach as well before I discuss this incident. Captain Hopkins, Captain Davis, Lieutenant Williams, Sergeant Sawyer, Corporal Marsden, Sergeant Hill, Corporal Alexander, Corporal Taylor, Officer Bernard, Officer Dinkins, Officer Pollitt, Officer McKean, Officer Blue, Officer Rodriguez, Officer Thibodeau. Any of those officers present? No, Marsden's here. Sergeant Sawyer. Come on up, thank you. All the officers whose names I read were involved in this incident. I'd like to recognize all of them, whether they were able to join us this afternoon or not. And many of you are aware of this incident, but on December 31st, 2019, at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, a Panola County Sheriff's deputy conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle in Panola County. Subsequent to that investigation, the officer was shot and ultimately died from those injuries. Immediately, their agency broadcast information that went out to the neighboring agencies of a suspect vehicle and a suspect information. Several of our officers, to include Corporal Marsden and his K-9 Casper, positioned themselves on I-20. We had information to believe the suspect possibly was coming to the Shreveport area. He did recognize the vehicle that was put out in that broadcast, initiated the traffic stop. The vehicle failed to stop. A vehicle pursuit ensued, followed by a foot pursuit. The gentleman ended up eventually hiding in some tall grass and brush. Corporal Marsden was able to deploy with his dog Casper, along with other officers, did apprehend that individual. So the night that a deputy was killed, we were able to give some satisfaction to the family and to the agency that the suspect was taken into custody. And that's extremely important to the entire law enforcement organization. Since that time, Corporal Marsden has received a lot of accolades, well-earned accolades from Panola County Sheriff's Office. I also have with me today, there's a group known as K-9s of Valor who were unable to join us due to their location. I believe they're in the Washington, D.C. area, the lady that reached out to me. And she asked me to present in this venue an award to K-9 Casper and Corporal Marsden. It's the K-9s of Valor Valor Award. It says, for selflessly pursuing and courageously apprehending the suspect one in the death of fallen deputy Chris Dickerson, December 31, 2019. So I'd like to present that today. In addition to the recognition of Corporal Marsden, there is also a check that is going to be presented to Sergeant Sawyer from K-9s of Valor to the Shreveport K-9 Citizen Support Group, which is a support group that recognizes some of the equipment needs that we can't afford from a budgetary standpoint. This is a check for $1,000 to the K-9 Support Group, also from K-9s of Valor.
I'm going to come down and give you all copies of the resolution, but since we've already gotten the facts on the record from the chief, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 9.
Second.
Okay, that motion by Vice Chair and second by Councilman
Mayor, will you come take a picture with me?
Green.
Yes.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Will someone take a photo for me, please? Somebody that's good at taking pictures.
Jackie.
And that motion is adopted.
Mr. Chair, while they're going now, I'd like to recognize Pastor Theron Jackson, former city councilman. Couldn't hardly see him back there with them dark glasses on. Did you say you couldn't wear dark glasses in here?
No, I didn't say nothing about dark
All
glasses.
right, okay.
The Joe Shine rule didn't cover that.
As well as, Mr. Chairman, while we waiting, I see new Commissioner Jim Terraferro in the audience as well.
Welcome, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, I believe it was adopted unanimously.
Yes. Yes, it was. With one eye left.
I'm sorry, y'all guys are thinking I passed away. That might be serious. My other guest is coming from a class, and she's not here yet, so could we do it after public
ma'am.
comment?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other council member at this time? All clear on the left, all clear on the right. It's the chair's honor at this time to recognize the Honorable Mayor Adrian Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start off by thanking those on the council who appointed representatives from your districts to serve the 2020 Complete Census Count Committee. The city will host a public meeting in coordination with the Bureau of Census to coordinate efforts to improve the census count and to develop and implement outreach strategies for Shreveport. The meeting will be held this Thursday, January 30th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the large conference room on the second floor. Next, I want to recognize 2 Shreveport police officers. They're getting a lot of hardware today for their selfless acts of kindness recently when they saved a resident from a house fire. At this time, I would like to ask Chief Wolverton to come forward and make the presentation.
If I could have SPD officers Rodney Keaton and Austin Page come forward, please. Shreveport Fire Department, this is certified that the Mayor of Shreveport and Fire Chief, the City of Shreveport, has awarded commendation for heroism to SPD Officer Austin Page, badge number 1612, for your exceptional heroism demonstrated on Monday, January 20th, 2020, while on the scene of a one-story house fire in the 500 block of West 76th Street. Patrol Officer Page was advised by citizens that a male was still trapped inside the home. Without hesitation, Officer Page entered the smoke-filled house without the protection of firefighting gear to save a fellow human being. Officer Page encountered thick black smoke conditions and was forced out of the home. Officer Page was then assisted by Officer Keaton, and they located the trapped individual. Together, the officers breached a window and pulled the man to safety. Shreveport Police Officer Austin Page risked his life to save the life of another. Given under my hand, the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, this 28th day of January 2020, myself, Edwin Scott Wolverton, and Adrian Perkins, Honorable Mayor of Shreveport. Congratulations on that. This certifies Mayor and Fire Chief, City of Shreveport, is awarded commendation of heroism for SPD Officer Rodney Keaton, badge number 1368, for your exceptional heroism demonstrated on Monday, January 20th, 2020, while on the scene of a one-story house fire in the 500 block of West 76th Street. Patrol Officer Rodney Keaton was advised by citizens that a male was still trapped inside the burning home. Without hesitation, Officer Keaton approached the burning home and located the room where the male was trapped. Officer Keaton was then assisted by Officer Page, and they used their batons to break a window. Together, both officers pulled the man to safety. Shreveport Police Officer Rodney Keaton risked his life to save the life of another. Given under my hand, the City of Shreveport, this 28th day of January 2020, Edwin Scott Wolverton, Fire Chief, and the Honorable Mayor Adrian Perkins. I just want to say this seems to be becoming a habit of our SPD officers. Y'all know we recognized an officer just a couple of weeks ago for absolutely almost the same exact scenario. So I want to recognize our SPD officers. They do such an outstanding job every day. They're working in harm's way in more ways than we would realize, and they're willing to lay their life down for another. And you know, fortunately, they were there. God put them in the right place at the right time to save this citizen's life, and I thank them very much for their efforts and for their commitment to our citizens of Shreveport.
Chair recognizes.
Mr. Chairman, in light of this and what we've seen over the last few meetings, I would like for us all to stand and give our police officers, firefighters, and city marshals a round of applause. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think we're blessed in the city of Shreveport, and I've said this over and over again, with the commitment that we have. I've worked along with the Shreveport Fire Department for 30 years. My wife was a Shreveport police officer. I know the dedication is there, and I appreciate everything y'all do, and we're lucky in Shreveport to have y'all.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
I'd just like to congratulate you all, and, sir, what's your name?
Officer Page.
Councilman Nicholson and I would like to see your driver's license. He said, man.
Officer, I intended no offense. I made that remark in confidence.
I'm sorry. Well, you my lawyer, get me out of this.
Separate this.
Certainly,
Separate them.
we'd just like to say congratulations and God bless you all. And also, Mr. Chair, I saw Pastor Larry Brandon is also back there, but congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't express my appreciation and congratulations to you for exercising your courage to risk yourselves to save another human being. It's not easy. I've seen throughout this country where people who was trained to do what you did oftentimes would run the other way. But you felt compelled through your commitment as well as through your training and understanding. Your job is to protect and to serve, and you was committed to protecting. And thank you for your service. May God bless you. And Chief Wolverton, thank you for acknowledging them in the way you did. And Chief, continue to hire these great individuals like these two gentlemen.
Certainly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you want heroes? Y'all want to say any words before y'all step away? Oh, okay. Well, okay. If you two don't, I'll say something to you. You know, I spent time in the military, and I know it takes a special kind of individual to go towards danger and not run away from it. You two have exemplified that you fit that mold. And it's a bit of a culminating event after watching hero after hero come up here for council meetings over my first 13 months in office. But I'm going to make sure from the mayor's office that we have an award for all of our first responders, a highest award for all of our first responders, firefighters, and police officers that recognize when you do something that valor is attached to it. So thank you for what you do, and we're grateful for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Lastly, Mr. Chairman, our team had a meeting with our utility partners about work done in our right-of-ways, and the administration plans to bring some legislation regarding that at the next council meeting. I would like to have our city engineer, Patrick Furlong, to come forward with a brief presentation on the challenges we face and why we believe legislation is needed.
Thank you, Mayor. Patrick, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and City Council. It will be brief. I have a PowerPoint that looks like it's popping up on the screen now. So what this ordinance, we anticipate bringing an ordinance in front of the City Council in the first meeting of February to address any company, any private company cutting the road, making an excavation in the roadway. Historically, companies have cut the city roads unpermitted and uninspected, and there have been some instances of poor workmanship, which has led to the premature degradation of our roads. So we've been meeting with the utility companies for over a year, discussing this, working with them, and we've asked for suggestions and haven't really gotten many suggestions. So we've developed a permitting system which will oversee this work. And I've got a few pictures up here, just examples of what we're talking about. Without oversight, the workmanship is sloppy. There's no nice way of putting it. Sites are left like this. This is a site right by the entrance of Betty Virginia Park on Line Avenue. That's a patch that has settled, and it's if you drive over that, you'll feel it. That's a close-up of it. Truck driving over it, it will jar your car. That's a core that somebody cut out of the road and just filled it with rock. I doubt they'll ever come back and fix it properly, and then it'll just degrade from there. more poor workmanship on our roadways. This is a concrete panel over in Broadmoor, right by Casey Steer Park. You can tell the old roadways held up, but the patch on that one concrete panel, the replacement of that one panel, it failed. It was probably a lack of compaction. Those are one of the main contributors to this problem is the dirt that's put back in the excavation is not compacted properly. So if there's nothing supporting it, the concrete's just going to fail. And this is another work site downtown. The hole left with rock. Sometimes they come back and patch it, sometimes they don't. And without any oversight, we don't really know who's doing this work. Lots of times it costs the city dollars. Public Works will come in and actually make the patch. Just loose rock on the street, more loose rock. Here's another dig site. It's not properly barricaded. Rebar sticking up like that is not proper. And here's a kind of one of my pet peeves. It's concrete panels, but there's a small panel in there that was cut out by a utility company, and you can't just cut those small shapes into a panel like that and leave ununiform shapes. That panel will crack up and break, and it's already starting to crack up and break around the edges. So that's all the pictures I have. So it'll be a streamlined process through MGO, the permitting process. We have new staff. We have some staff hired on, and we're working to build the staff that will oversee this. When they submit for a permit application, it will contain a location, and we'll dump that location into our GIS map, and we intend to have a map which tracks all activity in the right-of-way. Probably everybody up here knows that you've reported an issue at somebody's house, or somebody's digging, somebody's doing something. You report it to either me or the Public Works Director or Director of Water and Sewer. We all just spend days and hours trying to figure out who's doing the work. So ultimately, we hope to have a solution of one map showing all the activities so that it's at the touch of everybody's fingertip, and that will save city employees a lot of time. Like I said, we hope to get this ordinance in front of you in early February. Are there any questions?
Council, I want to add to Director Furlong's comments. This affects each and every one of your districts. It affects each and every one of the citizens out here. If you drive on the roads in Shreveport, the city, we have a public works department and we have a water and sewer department that occasionally goes out and does some work in the roads. But we're one entity of dozens that actually cut into the concrete throughout our city. What this will do is to make sure that those utilities that typically are cutting into our concrete are reporting it accurately and making sure they come behind themselves and actually repair our roads and our sidewalks and our right-of-ways to the degree of which they were before they started their work. And right now, we have had an enforcement problem with it and a reporting problem on their behalf. So the legislation is going to help us with both and hopefully keep our neighborhoods clean and orderly.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Nicholson.
Mayor Perkins, Mr. Furlong, I very much appreciate you bringing this legislation to the council. One of my greatest frustrations as a member are the constant calls I receive from citizens complaining about poor road work, and I recognize that much of that work, perhaps most of that work, is not done by the city's contractors. But if we don't have a system in place to track who is doing the work and to ensure that they appropriately repair their cuts, we just can't get our arms around the problem. This is a very much a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Councilman Bradford, I've overlooked you here. I'm sorry.
No, sir, that's
Was
old.
that old?
That's old.
Council.
It would be very helpful if we use the technology. If you don't mind, colleagues. Thank you.
Mr. Furlong and Mayor, I may have missed something. Is there anything we do retroactively to all these?
In some cases, it depends on what the contract looks. And Petra, you can jump in. Yeah, most contracts, that's what it says. You have to return it to the state that it was prior to. But an issue often is that we don't know who did the cut.
Who did the work.
Yeah, who did the work. So we can't go back and find those contractors necessarily. But I mean, Patrick, you can talk about.
Sure. When there is a specific problem, we can investigate, but that is very timely. And we do it, and we figure out who it is, and we have them fix it. But as far as going throughout the whole city, we don't have the resources, and I don't think it would be very
Right,
fruitful.
no, I'm just saying if there was a specific thing that was bad, like Line Avenue, I think is probably one of the worst in my opinion, and I don't know who did all the cutting, who's doing all the work from Piermont to 70th now, and now it's even going a little bit south into my district. Who's doing all
That's
that?
a roadway project. That is.
So the state's doing that?
That's the city.
Oh, the city is?
It's strictly a roadway project replacing bad concrete panels.
Okay.
But Line Avenue north of there is a perfect example
Yeah.
of what's happened. It was overlaid, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it looks like a 40-year-old road now with all the cutting. Another thing we'd like to accomplish with this ordinance is prohibiting any cuts in new pavement. I don't know if y'all have experienced, but I've experienced it several times. Unfortunately, brand new asphalt road is overlaid and somebody goes and cuts it wide open. And once you cut an asphalt road and patch it, it will never be the same. It just won't be as good. So we intend to, once a road's overlaid, we intend to prohibit any excavation in that roadway for maybe a 3 or 5 year period. So if the utility has work that they need done, we'll notify them before we overlay the road and they can go do their work at that time. After that, for 3 or 5 years, whatever's determined, they will be prohibited from cutting the road, except emergency work.
Well, I commend both the administration and Director Furlong for doing this. This is a huge problem. It's very frustrating to me to see that and especially in my district, we had some overlay of some pretty major roads, and then utilities come in and cut it up, and exactly what you're saying, it turns into a ditch right in the middle of the road. So I commend y'all for doing that, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you.
Patrick, I hope you get that Marshall Street open up for,
Well, that's with the trains.
huh?
That's with the trains.
Well, they got the roadblock. I hope they get it open for trick or treat time, because I won't take all the kids to church down to the mayor's house.
Yes, sir.
Chairman,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm, okay.
I'm on the board.
Okay, go ahead.
Director
Patrick.
Furlong, I see why we're having trouble with the technology now.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not the technology. I want to thank you for this. This is something that we talked about at our first committee meeting for infrastructure last year. And I just wanted to say to the general public that sometimes you see a problem and think, why won't they fix this? And sometimes putting policies in place, researching to see what the actual issues are so we can solve the right problem and not make new problems takes a little time. And it's not always that we're ignoring it or that we're just lollygagging that things aren't getting done. So with this, with whatever legislation comes forward, if we're supportive of it and can make that work, this is going to implement a new process so that we don't see these issues being as much of a problem in the city. Several of those pictures were in my district. Did any of that look familiar to you, Mayor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most of those.
Maybe
yeah.
a little too close to home.
Yeah.
But we have issues going on that might be from consent decree, that might be the water department, but a lot of times it's also private utilities. And before getting this system in place with MGO, which is My Government Online, we didn't necessarily know, without looking in several different places, who was doing what and when, so that we could get to the bottom of what the problem was. So this is a big deal, even though it sounds like some really dry stuff. Thank you.
What is lollygagging?
Ask my dad. He's a few years older than you.
Okay. Mayor, anything else?
Yes, I want to conclude my remarks on a bit of a somber note. I want to acknowledge the passing of Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, and the other 8 passengers that were on board of his helicopter. He obviously had an outsized impact on basketball, but also just on our community overall. And not only acknowledge that, but acknowledge the 34th anniversary of the Shuttle Challenger explosion, and also send our prayers to the mayor of Alexandria. His mother passed yesterday. And I go through all of that to say that we should all do everything that we can to be kind to one another. Hug our loved ones a little tighter every single day, because we do not know how many days we have left on this earth. So I bring that up and I ask for a moment of silence, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, before the
go
silent, would you also include Mr. Willie Burton?
Yes, Mr. Willie Burton, whose funeral is this weekend, by the way. Yeah.
That get Councilor Green, that is.
Yes.
Vice Chair, recognize.
Thank you, sir. I would like to, we haven't done it yet. I'm sorry. We have to be silent first.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Amen.
Thank you,
Vice-
Mr. Chairman.
If we could go back to suspend the rules to adopt
Second.
resolution number 8.
Motion by the Vice Chair to suspend the rules.
Second.
What resolution was that again?
For resolution 8.
Resolution 8, and that's second by the chair. A motion by the chair and second by Councilman Green.
And I would like to ask Mr. Anderson, Dr. Arnold, and Mrs. Frederick to come forward. And I would like to ask our clerk of council, Mr. Thompson, if he could read this resolution to the record.
Could we wait? Vote.
And, okay, sorry,
No discussion, please vote to suspend.
suspend.
That motion passes 6-1 out of the chamber.
Can we do the motion to adopt now, and then you can read it
Yes.
when I go down?
Do I hear a motion to
So
adopt?
move.
Okay, motion by Vice Chair, second by Councilman Green. Motion to adopt, please. No discussion? Please vote.
Before you read that, I just want to say congratulations. This is an organization I'm a part of. These fine young people are 3 out of 20 selected from across the state for leadership training. They started their training here in Shreveport. This is the second year the organization has chosen to use Shreveport as the starting place for this. And it's a big deal to see any organization like New Leaders Council that wants to grow young leaders with values that are going to be significant to the growth of our cities. And all 3 of these people want to make Shreveport the best place it can be. I also want to thank the mayor for showing up on Sunday and speaking to that group. I think that was a great honor for all of them to have that opportunity. And I'm going to walk down while our clerk of council reads this.
Okay, Mr. Clerk of the Council, did that motion pass?
Yes.
Motion passed. 6-1 out of the chamber.
Let the clerk's gonna read.
Motion to adopt,
Yeah.
passed. I just wanted to in the record.
I think he's gonna read the resolution.
Oh, I thought we voted.
No, we voted, but he's gonna read it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You ready? Mr. Chairman,
No, vote.
this is a resolution to congratulate Shreveport citizens Billy Anderson, Michelle Arnold, and Deshandria Frederick for being selected as fellows of the New Leaders Council Institute 2020 NLC Fellows Louisiana Chapter Program, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto by Councilwoman Lavette Fuller. Whereas the New Leaders Council Institute is a premier leadership and professional development training, mentoring, networking, career, and political advancement program for young professionals dedicated to educating and providing a new generation of leaders with the tools they need to succeed. And whereas anchored by its 6-month training program, NLC equips leaders with the skills to run for office, manage campaigns, create startups, and networks of thought leaders. NLC leaders take their activism back into their communities and workplaces to impact progressive change. And whereas New Leaders Council is the hub for progressive millennial thought leadership, soon to be the largest voting bloc in American history, some 83 million voters, and possessing significant economic power, millennials will be the next generation to truly change our institutions and American society. And whereas NLC has 50 chapters across the country in red and blue states with nearly 8,000 alumni, NLC is a true reflection of the millennial generation, with 63% of our NLC community self-identifying as people of color, with 61% women. NLC is one of the few organizations focused on building a new governing coalition. Whereas the 2020 Fellows of Shreveport are Billy Anderson, a millennial, is passionate about ensuring that every person has equal access to nonprofit organization support and alternative forms of education. Billy has lobbied local officials to support minimum wage increases and has canvassed for unanimous juries. Currently, Billy works as a census field manager for the 2020 census. Billy sits on the board of Social Goats, Inc. and the Highland Area Partnership as a foodie Billy has a social media web series where he highlights local eateries, their love of Shreveport, and their entrepreneurial spirit. And whereas Michelle Arnold joined the faculty of LSU Health Science Center Shreveport in 2012 as an assistant professor, Dr. Arnold has been actively involved in mentoring and training students, recruitment efforts for the Department of Microbiology and Immunology, and faculty governance. She currently serves on the editorial board of the Journal of Virology and is an associate editor of the Journal of Medical Virology. She is a member of several professional societies, including the American Association for the Advancement of Science, American Society for Virology, and Association of Women in Science. In the community, Dr. Arnold has promoted science education activities in all levels and has participated in the Citizen Science Academy in Shreveport, the USA Science and Engineering Festival in Washington, D.C., and science clubs for girls in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In other endeavors, she organized teams to paint houses of low-income seniors in the community and trained as a member of the Citizens Emergency Response Team. Dr. Arnold believes that education and civic engagement are critical building blocks of any community, and her goal is to work to develop both areas. And Tashandria Shea Frederick is a certified health education specialist, is currently in her senior year of nursing school at Northwestern State University College of Nursing and Allied Health. She is pursuing a career as a nurse midwife to reduce and eliminate infant and maternal mortality rates in women of color. She is trained as a doula and is focused on doing the work now. In addition to becoming a nurse midwife, she plans to become an expert in birthing and childbirth education, to speak at educational and training events for moms, and to publish research relating to maternal and infant mortality. She is the current Student Nurses Association president, secretary for the Bayou chapter of the Nursing Honor Society, Sigma Theta 2, International Region 1 director of the Louisiana Association of Student Nurses, student communications chair for the Shreveport Black Nurses Association, and she was recognized and awarded as an outstanding nursing student in 2019-2020. She plans to use her education, past experience, and entrepreneurial knowledge to make a difference. She enjoys self-help books, women empowerment and educational podcasts, traveling, enjoying new food experience, and listening to music. As a talented baker and chef, she is often found in the kitchen cooking for family and friends. She understands the importance of family meals and how food brings people together. Food is love, and love is food. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport in due regular and legal session convened that the Shreveport City Council congratulates Billy Alexander, Michelle Arnold, Tashandria Frederick on being selected as 2020 Fellows for the Louisiana chapter of the New Leaders Council Institute. Be it further resolved that if any provision of this resolution or the application thereof is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect other provisions, items, or applications of this resolution, which can be given effect without the invalid provisions, items, or applications, and to this end, the provisions of this resolution are hereby declared surplus.
Thank you. Congratulations, you all.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment really quick?
You sure can.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for acknowledging such a worthy organization. NLC, first I want to say thanks to Candace Batiste, who's sitting in the audience, for her involvement. Her involvement with the organization. She played a big role in actually having that organization come to Shreveport. To the millennials in the audience, please look into the program if you haven't already participated or been a member. It is a very worthy program, and they do very worthy training for those that get accepted into it. But for everybody else, I think we should all be very happy with the program, because what it does is it exposes leadership, future leaders of Southern Louisiana to Shreveport. And I don't know how many times I've been in Baton Rouge and New Orleans and asked anybody, have they ever been to Shreveport before? And they say they've never crossed I-10. So I'm appreciative to the program for that kind of exposure to Northern Louisiana. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I meant to acknowledge Candace. Hey, Candace. But I also want to acknowledge our one of my intersecting districts. School board member Lloyd Thompson is here today. Hello, Mr. Thompson. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Clark gave us a very glowing report yesterday. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Clark? I guess to the master plan committee?
Just one small thing, Mr. Chair, that we're in the process of restaffing the master plan subcommittee, and we hope that you will make the appointees to this committee so that we can get started with the work that's at hand for us to do.
Mr. Clark, for the record, I have already. I did that on the first day.
Thank you so much, sir. I wish you would let me know, but
Don't thank him yet.
did you not come back?
Well, you're exactly right. I did not communicate that to you, but the Levette Fuller, Jerry Bowman, and Grayson Butcher will be serving master plan committee. And
We're very proud to have them on our committee, sir. Thank you so much.
Say that now.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Thompson, I see no public hearing today. Do we have any legislation to be added today, Mr. Thompson?
We have one item, Resolution 11, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for water supply and sewage disposal between the City of Shreveport, Pratt Paper LLC, Pratt Recycling LLC, and BFI Waste Services LLC, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Green,
I think we need to hear if anybody object or.
Second.
second by the Vice Chair. Does anyone here oppose adding that legislation? Does anyone approve of it, I guess is what.
Mr. Chairman, a question.
Yes, question, Councilman Nicholson.
We're adding this to the agenda for introduction only, and this will lay over 2 weeks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nobody was, I'm sorry, let the record reflect that nobody came forward to speak.
I can do it again, though.
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, any discussion? Let's please vote. And that motion has been adopted, 6 with 1 out of the chamber. Now comes to request to speak. The Vice Chair will control the time and the speakers. Request.
Calling Mr. Chase Hoffpower. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Please give us your name and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Chase Hoffpower. My address is 1064 Gabriel's Turn, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know this was the big meeting today. I thought this was going to be a small kind of meeting, but this morning I found out that there's a resolution to just halt annexation of land into the city, and I got to thinking of the ramifications of that and current projects we as developers have going on, and in particular, you know, I'm in the residential development business, and we have a project that has been master planned, approved by the city, approved by the MPC, and you know, we build out in phases, and we bring 100% of utilities to those phases or to those streets, and you know, just to stop in the middle of our project and really be halted for a year. I mean, I don't see how that is, you know, that is fair, and I understand the fair is something that comes to town once a year, but I don't understand it. And you know, I think that our area is you know, it generates a lot of tax base for the city. Our projects generate a lot of tax for the city, and just to be halted so that y'all can figure out how to improve other areas of town. I just don't see the logic in that. And I see the economic burden for our area of that. So I just came to get some clarification on the reasoning and the why, and how can we have a voice in our area for this.
Is that the end of your?
That's it.
Okay. I'll tell you, since I'm sponsoring that legislation, that my intent today is to postpone it so that we can get a better understanding for all of our citizens to understand what we're actually trying to do.
Okay.
But let me also clarify that when we do move on this is only a first step toward urging the MPC to reevaluate what we're doing so that we can make reasonable plans to halt expanding the city boundaries. And we are not going to go out of our way to make life difficult for you, which is part of the reason we're going to continue having a discussion.
Okay.
Whatever we voted on, whether it's this or if it's amended over the next 2 weeks after we postpone it today, pending the support of my colleagues to do that, we are going to be just starting the conversation so that we can make those adjustments. We're not just going to say, we can't from here just say, that's it, we're freezing everything right now without going through the MPC and following those procedures.
Okay.
But there is more to it than just trying to stop you from developing where the tax base is now in order to take care of other parts of the city. There's more to it than that.
There always is. I appreciate that. And so more clarification's coming.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay, Councilman Butcher.
And I use my electronic device. Anyway. Mr. Hoffpower, so basically you are the developer, you're at Southern Trace, right? Or a portion of Southern Trace, correct?
Yes, a section of Southern Trace.
You have land that you've already acquired.
Yes, sir.
And the master plan was approved by the MPC, and basically that portion is still outside the city. However, it's always been projected to go inside the city. Is that right?
Yes.
I just think that maybe an amendment, I am for, and I'm going to go on the record, Mr. Perkins, I'm on the record about this. I am for no new annexations unless it's in an existing neighborhood that's expanding. If the neighborhood is expanding, then I think that we should let those people come in because they're part of the city. We've got to get over this perception that Southern Trace was annexed 2 weeks ago. It was annexed 30 years ago. That would almost be like in 1965, people of Highland being mad that South Highlands was annexed. So, I mean, we've been part of the city. Our neighborhoods out there have been part of the city that long. So, but yes, as far as expanding anywhere else, I am against it 100%. I don't think that we need to be going out until we can take care of what we've already got. But as far as an existing neighborhood, putting another phase in, it's a logistical nightmare, in my opinion. So, just for the record, that's where I'm at on it, and I would like to see possibly an amendment to Councilwoman Fuller's to not just be the three sides, but also include any existing development.
We'll see where we end up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Nicholson's recognized.
I will say briefly that I share Councilman Butcher's concerns about the impact this resolution would have on existing developments, and I appreciate the Vice Chair's willingness to postpone her legislation so that we can address those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Butcher.
Mr. Perkins, you're on the list to speak, I'm assuming, right?
Point of order.
Councilman.
Go ahead.
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry, Councilman.
No, I'm sorry, Councilman.
No, I just,
Electronic
go ahead,
device.
Councilman.
I'll request extra time for you to speak about that if you want to, where we don't get out of order.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm talking about when you speak. When you speak. Yeah, I'll ask you questions and you can speak on it then.
Councilman Green, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Maybe I can get the two of y'all together. Okay, thank you.
No, mine was just simple. Mine was just the fish is too salty and it's cold.
Ms. Bowen. Calling up Mr. John Perkins.
Hey, there's your spot.
Is this just how it's gonna be now? The rent is too dang high. Remember that? Remember the rent is too dang high?
No, I don't know that one.
Not right now. She says she's gonna.
It was a candidate from there. I'll show you what it is.
Okay.
Okay, hello, my name's John Perkins, and I live at 310 Gentilly Circle. I'm going to stand back from this mic till you guys get it straightened out, but I speak today in support of the resolution because it's somewhat like I've been writing a lot of checks. My bank says I'm broke. I'm broke. I can't keep writing checks until I put some more money in. And that's the situation the city finds itself in right now, is there's a resource gap. We've spread ourselves to the size of Detroit. There may be some people from Detroit. So we're as big as Detroit with as many pipes, as many needs for cops all over that big area. But we can't afford that because we don't tax ourselves enough. I don't know about you. I'm taxed enough already. Every time you annex something, you raise taxes or you raise deficits. So we're at a crossroads where we need to decide, can we afford to raise our taxes to pay for that, or do we need to make some cuts somewhere? And cities like Memphis are making cuts. They're de-annexing. So I'd recommend that you do a moratorium 5 years, follow Hayes, Kansas example, and have a meeting with all the developers and builders and explain to them the situation. We want them to thrive. I want to thrive. I have to go work all over the country. So please stop, please. We can't afford it. You can't afford it. I got it down there.
Thank you, Mr.
But
Perkins.
don't raise my taxes anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
Calling Mr. Sammy Mears.
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, apartment M110, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. Funny joke for the day. What two things ask no questions but get many answers? A doorbell and a telephone. Now, moving from the funny moment, I've got something I want to say, and it concerns whether or not the Cross Bayou will be putting out general scrap out of business or whether it won't. I hope you'll please rethink about your decision on that. It might not mean anything to any one of you on the council, but it does to me and a lot of other people who recently were talking to me about this. People and myself do a lot of recycling there. We've done this for many years, recycling cans, tabs, and tops. We love the place, and we don't want general scrap being touched or put out of business by the Cross Bayou. It sounds a little bit ridiculous putting general scrap out of business and to just put other interests ahead of your own. It wouldn't make any sense. That's the kind of thing that would make the roadrunner want to marry the coyote. It really doesn't work. You can do whatever else you might want to with the Cross Bayou, but I was just really not in favor of the general scrap being put out of business because I like the place where I like to recycle as well as other people do. Other people have already expressed to me how they feel about this, and that's why they asked me and they made their comments known to just leave general scrap alone. And the other thing that asks no questions but gets many answers to is a buzzer. Bzzz.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Alex Bennett.
Alex Bennett, 4441 West Airport Freeway, Irving, Texas. I come before you to speak in favor of the zoning ordinance for zoning case 19467-C. We are proposing a rehabilitation hospital to be built on the site at the end of Fern Circle. The project will bring a significant number of new jobs to the community, and we feel it's an underserved market from a healthcare standpoint. We've spoken to a number of the council members as well as the surrounding community. There were some residents that had concerns at the Planning Commission. We have since met with those folks, and I think we've addressed the concerns that they brought to our attention regarding the potential development.
Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Bennett, thank you for appearing today. You and I have spoken about this project, and I'm supportive of it. I think it will bring new jobs to our community and will meet an unmet need for healthcare services. I would request that you do everything you can to address the concerns of adjacent residents concerning noise and related issues. This is going to go forward, I believe, but I want to make sure that their concerns are fully addressed. Thank you.
Yeah, a number of their concerns revolved around public sewer and drainage, and we fully intend to abide by the city engineering's recommendations on how to handle those issues.
Thank you.
Councilman Butcher.
Mr. Bennett, thanks. He also met with me. I have several neighborhoods that have joined this as well. It's just 70th Street's the divider there, and I appreciate you reaching out to me and discussing it. I know that you met with some of the property owners on the north side of the development. I have not heard anything from the residents on the south side of 70th Street, like in University Terrace, but I would also request that if any of them have any concerns as this moves forward, that you would work with them as well.
Absolutely.
But I'm supportive. I think it's a great thing, and I like to see anybody bringing jobs to Shreveport. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Butcher. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Joanne Wheelis?
Joanne Wheelis. I also am speaking in favor of the item number 9 on your agenda, the zoning.
Excuse me, would you give your address as well?
333 Texas, Suite 1050, Shreveport, 71101. I think Alex Bennett expressed most of what I would have said had I gone before him, but we did have a meeting this afternoon in my office at 2 o'clock with the opponents of our project. They said they were not in opposition to our project. They just had specific questions regarding, as Alex said, utilities, SWEPCO, they have power outages frequently in Southeast Shreveport, water and sewer issues, which we will work with them to resolve, in cooperation with the city, of course. But the project is a beautiful project. It's going to bring many really, really good paying jobs to our city, and we're just anxious to get started and get the hospital open and get to business. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Organic?
My name's Alan Organic at 420 Piermont Road, Shreveport. Councilman Nicholson, I want to talk about the resolution regarding ITEP. Is this the right time?
Certainly, sir.
I read the resolution this morning and saw the clause about 10% employment increase requirement for ITEP. I object to that. There's a lot of times not a direct, immediate relationship between the investment dollars that we put into a project and a number of employees. Sometimes investments made to automate and employment labor hours go down per unit of production. Other times we get swamped by a market condition, a downturn, and it's hard to prove that we've got more employees so many months after the project starts. So I see it as a disincentive and would like to see a change.
Would you tell us your background, sir? Are you a business owner?
Yes, Inferno Manufacturing in Acres, and I've been here in the last 2 years and to talk about a request expansion ITEP, and this body has given us the blessing and exemption, and we see more of that going forward. But that looks like a hard thing to achieve, the 10%, and guarantee it. It's true that our experience has been the last 5 years that our employment numbers have increased with the expansions that we've done. I think our employment numbers have gone up 20-25%. Our payroll dollars have gone up 40%. So there is a long-term benefit, and of course most companies want to have more employees. That's our power. So it's not that we don't think it'll happen. It's just the mechanics of it. Hard to make that work. And
Well, sir, I appreciate your remarks, and I will say that my motivation for introducing this legislation is to start a conversation among members of the council about the manner in which we exercise the obligation that the governor has imposed on us by involving local entities in approving these tax exemptions. Because we have that responsibility, I think we need to make sure that we have a consistent and fair standard that we apply to each application to ensure that when we approve a tax exemption, which takes money out of the public's hands and we could otherwise use for public purposes, we are doing that to appropriately incentivize economic activity rather than just handing out tax dollars. I'm not committed to passing the particular provisions that are in the legislation that's introduced. The gentleman references a required 10% employment increase. I'm open to a conversation about what those standards should be, but right now we don't have any standards. And I think we have an obligation to work through that in an orderly way and come to a collective conclusion about what those standards ought to be. Thank you.
Councilman.
Yes,
Would you yield, please?
Yes, sir.
You say that we don't have any standards, but as I said before in previous meeting, Councilman Bradford, we did use the Chamber of Commerce formula when we were looking at the Calumet. We had a Excel sheet that, if you remember, and we used that to come up, even though they withdrew it, but that's what we used was the Chamber. We had several presented to us, formulas, but we chose to use, I just mentioned that we did do that.
I should say that to my understanding, based on conversations with the clerk of council, we have no formally adopted standards.
I agree.
I don't mean to suggest that we not apply
Well,
standards.
I certainly agree with that. Okay, thank you. Councilman Bradford?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reserve most of my comments, but I did want to respond to Councilman Nicholson in the fact that, and I appreciate you receiving from this gentleman an understanding that all the time these NIP does not produce additional employees. I visited his business, when we gave him that tip, we did it because he bought and it almost saved his business because he needed to upgrade his technology, and he bought this I don't know what is it, $500,000, $1 million machine that increased production, and because production was increased, his salesman was able to go out and because they could produce a product quicker, and he needed additional employees for that purpose. But it doesn't always give the opportunity to bring in additional employees. But I just wanted to make that reference. But at the same time, whenever we can save a company, an industry that hires 50, 100 people, and we can save it by them expanding their technology and getting in new equipment that meets this current social order, that is also a benefit. And I'll speak further on that, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ready? Reverend Linus Mays. Give your name and your address.
My name is Pastor Mays. My address is 36 22 Lakeside Drive at the present time, right off of Jefferson Page. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to this wonderful council. I came forward this afternoon. I left my job early to address my concern, the Cross Bayou Plan program, which I am very much in favor of. Me and Ms. Fuller talked on the phone. She gave me the reasons why she are in opposition of this particular project. I replied to Ms. Fuller on the phone that I've watched numerous projects be awarded to Mr. Larkin and others by other council persons, and there was no outrage to try to stop from even looking into it. The memorandum that Mr. Bradford only requires you all to allow the mayor and the administration to look into this. Me and Mr. Fleury talked, and there's nothing wrong with looking into it. He said to me that I just want to make sure that we get what we need, and I appreciate that. But to my councilwoman, where I was offended in the phone call is when you alluded to that those who have in the past, as it relates to people not of color, when you said that they were the ones that handled their business better than people like us, that kind of bothered me, because that position right there, that CAO position, has a black woman sitting in it now. And when Mr. Tom Dark, I was down here then, they was told Cedric Glover was our mayor at the time. It was told that a black person was not qualified for that position in the city of Shreveport. So I was offensive then. And I think, as a pastor in your district, I am deeply disturbed because, Mr. Bradford, thank you for introducing it. I think that this project is going to be helpful for this city. And I want somebody to tell me, what is the alternative? What is the better plan that you have? What do you have to put up in order to create businesses in this particular city? Each one of the council members up there, and I have been down here for decades for previous council. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I've been down here and watched previous council, and our conversation, me and your conversation with Mr. Larkin and others, those people, I just feel that African Americans in this city can handle projects of great magnitude, and we shouldn't be downgraded because we are in control of it. It's not a racist comment up here. I'm just saying
Your
that we,
time is up.
okay, that we, thank you very much, that we can do what needs to be done in the city. And Ms. Levette, I hope that we can do it together.
As long as you don't misrepresent anything I say to you in the future, we will have no problem doing that. Next caller, Mr. Craig Lee.
Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Jim Graves said something earlier about the attitude of politicians believing that this is their body. Levette Fuller, this is not your body. Your arrogance and your egotistical nature means nothing because you lack competence as it relates to business, because you've never been in corporate America and you for sure ain't never owned a business. So I want to get that out of the way first. So Reverend Mays just hit on something very important, and I need all 7 of you to ask this question: where's your plan? If you're not rolling with Willie's plan, where's your plan? Because you ain't never fought for anything in the city as it relates to moving the city of Shreveport forward, period. So at the end of the day, where's your plan? Councilman Nicholson, Councilman Butcher, whoever's against this particular plan, especially in this audience, I want to see your plan. We are fully in favor of Cross Bayou. And I wanted to read something here. It's very interesting about the city of Arlington. And a lot of people in Shreveport like the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys play in Arlington, Texas. They used to be in Irving, Texas. But Arlington put up over $325 million in order for that stadium to be there. Because guess what? The city has to make an investment. The state of Louisiana just last year put up over $400 million, $450 million to be exact, in order to redevelop the New Orleans. Oh, it's not called the New Orleans Superdome. It's called the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. A private sector corporation actually has their marquee on that. But the city, the state, all have to put up investments. So at the end of the day, I am in full support of Cross Bayou. Myself, Larry English, Willie Bradford, our team, Harry Huckabee, Joe Shine, James Pannell, we fought to even get the Fair Share program here in the city of Shreveport in 1998. I don't know how old Lavette Fuller was at that time, but I know she was not involved in that fight. Every fight that we do is about economic development and inclusiveness, and in order to make that happen, you have to gear up. And I hope the voters of District B understand from this day forward, you don't send a piccolo player and a ballerina to fight Mike Tyson.
Greg, let's don't do that, please. Be respectful.
I'm very respectful.
That was not respectful.
Let him
Please.
be himself.
Please.
He's good at it.
I beg of you.
Mr. Lloyd Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
I'll just comment to members of the audience how exceedingly unpersuasive I find any personal attack on any of my colleagues. You always are welcome to express your opinion, but if you're attempting to persuade me, that is not the most effective manner to do so.
Greg, come on now.
Good afternoon, Lloyd Thompson, P.O. Box 3083, Shreveport, Louisiana. As a citizen of Shreveport, I came to Shreveport a few days ago with the idea that I want to see Shreveport do some great things. I want Shreveport to be great. I want Shreveport to have things that it needs. In terms, I got involved in the community. PTA started off because I wanted to see a future for our young folks. Then I got involved in our civic organization, ran for school board because I believe our schools ought to be the best schools in the country. I'm here today to say, let's look at this project seriously. Let's give it an opportunity to work. Let's all just come to the table and take the black and white out of it. Let's talk about what's best for Shreveport. Because as I looked across this parish as a school board member, I don't just represent District 3, I represent every child from Vivian all the way over to the Texas line. I'm concerned about we're dividing our community because we got a few issues with a few folks. And believe me, I'm the one who really has some issues with some folks that I know what issues is. But a gentleman like Paul Pratt, just to name one, who I know personally with his integrity and what he stands for, he's not going to be involved in something that you think is trying to rob or rip off the city. I'm talking about that man for a reason because I know him personally. And all his partners, that he's not going to get with no partners, that it's not going to be fair. At the end of the day, y'all, we got to do something for the city. I'm seeing that we have lost, we went from 40-some thousand to 39,000 kids in Cattle Parish schools. Our children are leaving, the parents are moving. If the land is sitting there, let's make sure we use this opportunity to make sure we have the jobs and the opportunities for our young folks to stay in Shreveport. I would love for my daughter to come from New Orleans. She's working down in New Orleans. Call me every day, Dad, I'm stressed out, I really want to come home, but there's no jobs. I would love for my only child to come home and be with her father because I didn't have that opportunity. I spent 19 years in the foster home because I didn't have that opportunity. And I am begging you to put aside the racial issue and let's look at this project for what it is. It's time for us to come together as a city. Think about it, search your heart. And I know each one of y'all have good hearts. You believe that what's right for this city is going to pay off down the road. I come as a citizen to this community. I come as an outsider, but yet an insider, born on Baker Street, if you want to know where I'm from, Shreveport. End up in a foster home. I have spent all of my 50-plus years talking about making Shreveport a better place. And I want to make sure when the last walk comes in my life, that I can leave here knowing that we made a decision to save our boys and girls, that we made a decision to provide fair housing, that we made jobs come to this community, that we did all we need to do to make a difference. Think about it, search your heart, it's the right thing, and it's the right time.
Doc Voorhees.
Good afternoon. I'm Doc Voorhees. I live at 10014 Brittany Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana. I was just moved by Lloyd's presentation. Let me just tell you a little bit about my background. I'm from Bunkie, Louisiana, right outside of Bunkie, Louisiana. And I was born on a plantation. My parents couldn't read or write, but thanks be to God for this day. You know, I've been here since 1995, and I love this area, but we've got to give economic development a chance. Stagnation is not an option. I was looking at the statistics on yesterday in terms of the job growth in Louisiana. You know, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, thriving. Shreveport, losing jobs. You know, if I remember when the proposition was put before us for the convention center, strong opposition. Strong opposition. But look at it today. You know, we've got to take a chance. We've got to invest. We've got to give programs a chance. Shreveport deserves it. And the alternative is just not very good. I'm in strong support of this project, and I just wanted to voice my concern. Thank you so much.
Alvin Oliver?
He will return.
Okay. Marty Van Cleve?
My name is Marty Van Cleve. My address is 421 Brighton Court, 71115, and I will be addressing concerns regarding the Cross Bayou development. I was formerly a local realtor for 22 years and was a part of many financial transactions. Successful real estate ventures depend on a number of things that are missing from the proposed development, and many of the numbers seem to be pulled from the thin air. Where are the independent market studies that help prove that such a development is needed or wanted? Where is the proof that more new office space and the planned 5,000 residential units can be filled? If we are simply moving people from the current state building and courthouse to newly constructed facilities, what good is that doing anyone other than a few construction workers and the developers who stand to make a hefty development fee? If we are simply moving the folks in apartments from one Shreveport apartment complex to another, what good is that doing for our city and for the taxpayer who will be footing a large part of the financial burden of this project? There is something called absorption rate in real estate. It tells you the rate of which available homes are sold in a specific market during a specific time period. It can also apply to apartment rentals. There are local apartment developers who have spent their own private investment in building quality units, and they say our absorption rate does not satisfy anywhere near the number of units these Cross Bayou developers are talking about. Those numbers are suspect, and what about the other numbers they are telling us? They are touting hundreds of jobs created. Part-time construction jobs should not count, Neither should the jobs that are simply moving from the state building or other facilities that already exist somewhere else in Shreveport. If you ask them to remove these jobs, how many can they promise then, and what kind of jobs are they? So much of this project has unanswered questions, and there are so many ways that our city and taxpayers are on the hook for long-term costs. We will have minimal trusted representation with no transparency, and I implore you to stop it
Ms.
now.
Mackie, your time is up.
Please reflect
Your
on the
time is up.
results of the
Ms.
recent
Mackie,
bond
your
issue.
time is up.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Go Louisiana Tech Bulldogs.
Mr. Oliver?
All right, how are you? Alvin Oliver, 2319 Fernbrook Drive, Shreveport. I kind of want to piggyback off what the young lady just said a moment ago. She talked about the absorption rate. Now, maybe that is the absorption rate at the current time. What about forecasting into the future? She can't tell us what the absorption rate will be. So now, let me say this. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Right now, we have nothing. Like Willie Bradford said, we don't see any cranes anywhere unless you go down to New Orleans or Baton Rouge. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. We have nothing. If you don't bring something, you folks hadn't offered nothing, so nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Gateway is offering something. Let's try that. We need something to bolster and boost this economy. Man, folks need jobs around here. People are leaving here. People have already left. We need something to return these people here, to make folks locate here. I have a lot of people on my Facebook post saying, hey, we need manufacturing jobs. We need manufacturing jobs. Well, let me tell you this. In order to catch a fish, you got to put bait on the hook. The manufacturers need motivation. They need incentive. And so maybe the Gateway Development Project Cross Bayou may be that incentive, may be that motivation that we need to bolster and boost the economy to get other business in here. Big business attracts other business. And so if we can get that business in here, I'm certain it'll attract other business. And lastly, I want to say this. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's been going on for a long time, okay? Oftentimes, for many years, white people have controlled the narrative in Shreveport, and that's a fact. And so now it seems to me that you got a bunch of black folk, business professionals. I've heard some of them, names been assassinated. They've assassinated Larry English. You don't know this man to assassinate this man. This man has been an activist, has been a fighter. They've assassinated Paul. They've assassinated Willie. You know, these people are business people. These people aren't scamming you. These people are professionals. And so give this a chance. Otherwise, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And it's time that somebody else controlled the narrative. Because when you had it, you didn't do anything with it. So let somebody else take over. And let's stop all this racial crap and come together and do what's best for Shreveport, and not just each of your respective districts, but for the whole city.
Deborah Allen?
Hi, I'm Deborah Allen. My address is 7004 Gilbert Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. Today, I'm here on behalf of Ms. Maxine Sarpy. She's unable to be here, and I would like to read what she wants to say to you. Mayor Adrian Perkins and City Council members, Gateway Development Consortium has spent 2 years and millions of dollars to bring a proposal to the city to spark economic development in our downtown. Given the current lack of economic development in Shreveport, The council should authorize the mayor to see if he can negotiate the agreement with them. Our city ranks last in the country in economic growth. We continue to suffer from decades of out-migration with our best and brightest. Our downtown, once the heartbeat of the city, and Lakeside and Allendale are glaring images of a city in decline. Let's be clear, the leadership of Gateway are men and women who have decades of service to our community. Among its ranks are former chairman of the Independence Bowl, a former Shreveport City Councilman, the former executive director of a YWCA, and former chairman of the Shreveport Housing Authority. They are the best we have to offer. More importantly, they have shown themselves to be smart business people who have assembled a world-class team to build this project. Gateway has brought investors into our city ready to invest hundreds of millions of dollars. They have put their time and money on the line. If the City Council doesn't unanimously vote to authorize Mayor Perkins to enter into negotiations, then shame on this city. As important as the thousands of jobs and millions of dollars in new taxes that this project will generate, this is also a test of whether we can give dignity and respect to a new generations of entrepreneurs. What kind of message will it send to young entrepreneurs of color and women if this city is not willing to negotiate with Gateway? It says to our young people, go to Dallas, go to Atlanta, go to Charlotte, and other dynamic progressive cities that welcome this kind of vision and energy that Gateway has demonstrated. I urge the City Council to vote unanimously to give the mayor the authority to negotiate with Gateway and to bring the agreement back to the council for approval or disapproval. Thank you sincerely, Ms. Maxine Sarpy.
Mr. Lester Smith.
Good evening. Lester Smith, 4148 Theo Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Gateway Project as well. And I want to echo what a lot of the people have said before me. But I think we've got to stop coming down here begging like we used to with our head in our hands and our heads bowed, asking for what's rightfully ours. I want to thank Willie for the initiative, but Willie with an initiative, and black people are sitting back and not standing with Willie or any other black man that come forward. It's not because we're a majority, because we're the majority of the poor, but we can do what needs to be done if we come together. We like to send, they've been talking a lot about the best and the brightest. We as a people, we like to send pussycats to fight lions. These people, the oppressor is not going to give the oppressee its power, just hand it over. You're going to have to fight for it. And if you're not willing to stand and get some scars and take some bumps and bruises, we may as well go to the house now, because these people are not going to give us anything. We're going to have to fight for what we want, and we shouldn't have to be down here begging. I allude to this often. We have 4 black councilmen and a black mayor. When white people were in charge, they got what they want, and they're still getting what they want. They don't have to come down here to ask for it, because they're being taken care of, because they can always find a black to go with them, to give them the full. We have got to start thinking with our best interests in our mind, thinking about our future, and not being afraid about who we're going to make mad. Matter of fact, I don't care who get mad. I got a young man now looking for a job, been in jail 27 years, got all the certificates and everything you can ask for, and can't find a job in this city. So he's set up to go back to jail. And we sit around here arguing. Tell it like it is. If it's racism, and anytime black people try to do something in this city, it's always going to be opposition, because we come with our heads bowed and our hats in our hand. It's time for us to ask for what's rightfully ours, not only ask for it, but demand it. Give these people the opportunity that they need to fail like you've given everybody else. Thank you.
Councilman Green.
Ms. Lester, I was gonna call you, but since you're here, we're developing a airport authority advisory board from the Moortown area. Mr. Mayor, would you accept Lester to be on there? I was gonna call you, but I couldn't find your number. So would you just, all you gotta do is just be in church, raise your right hand. We're good. All right. Put him on there, Mr. Mayor, if you would. Thank you. Thank you, Lester. I just wanted to.
Thank you, Councilman.
Irma Rogers. Ms. Rogers, you're right on cue. Your name is up on the list next to speak.
Irma Rogers, 1920 Michoud Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71107. Chairman Fleury, Vice Chair, Ms. Fuller, other council members, Mayor Perkins, and your staff. I've served on several committees. I'm here today, let me preface, gonna come backwards. Ordinance number 161, Pastor Green about the time for closing liquor stores. I'm still with that, okay? Mr. Nicholson also. Resolution number 3, Review Charter Committee. Be mindful of your Civil Service Board. They rely heavily upon that.
That's been withdrawn today.
Okay, thank you. Now, 2030 Master Plan Great Expectation, 2009 to 2011. This one. And I served on it, and I have the condensed version, okay? 2019 Mayor's Economic Development Committee, co-chaired. This one. I served on it. 2030 Master Plan, Chapter 10, 10.7, 10.19. Cross Bayou project should be developed. That's what it says. It mentioned the amenities from the Gateway project, including housing, other developments, and amenities to go along with that. Last year, on the Mayor's Economic Development Plan, we mentioned Gateway development. There were some counterparts sitting there with me saying, I don't think that's going to make. But in my narrative, I put in anything that will help to bring jobs and economic development to this city, for which we were sitting on the subcommittee of the transition team, which was economic development. We need to look at it. Also, it was added, if there can be infrastructure and other needs that the city could provide, just as any other aspect for a large project, it should be done. This is from around 2011 under Mayor Cedric Glover, Oklahoma City study. Oklahoma City, we visited Oklahoma City. We also visited Birmingham. Birmingham has a large medical. They have one in Oklahoma City too. But they took a ditch in Oklahoma City, transformed it. They brought up maps 1, 2, and 3, and I talked to Representative Cedric Glover last week, and I think they got maps 5 now, which supplements their educational system. We need this. We need this. I am supportive of this. I've worked on this. We worked. We studied for more than 12 years. When are we going to take action? God go before us if we can't come together on this. We need this. If we don't have this, what do you have to offer in the alternative? None of my children live here.
The time is up.
Thank you.
Bill Weiner.
I'm Bill Weiner. I live at number 2 Longleaf Lane. I'm a retired architect. I studied architecture and urban design at Cornell, and I've been active in Shreveport, especially Cross Bayou, for over 50 years. Back when Hussey was mayor, we got something added to the bond election to do a plan on Cross Bayou. Subsequent mayors just moved the money away. It never happened. I've been involved quietly and publicly in trying to stop inappropriate things on Cross Bayou. We are a river town. That's all we have left. We messed up our riverfront with the casinos. There was a wonderful two-boat solution for the riverfront. And a person from out west came to town and wanted to acquire all the land from the railroad yard to cross Bayou, from the river to Commerce Street. And he was told to talk to the mayor. That was Hazel Beard. She wouldn't even talk to him. So don't blame it on the people for not doing anything. People have tried. I could give more examples. But I'm here to ask for one thing, that after the vote, that you let a few of us have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to respond to what happened. I can't respond to something before it's done. So give us a chance to talk about where we go next. There have been plans to, I have produced plans on what that area could be, but for the people, it could be our Central Park, it can be our Golden Gate Park, but it can be a land bank where development can be done by government and private for the good of the people who live here, like a planetarium and things like that. You've heard from the other speakers that there's no need for what's being proposed. We don't need housing. We don't need the government buildings moved. There are ways to find out why people are moving, and I've spoken to this board to try to get the city to look at it. And once we learn why they're moving, then we can address how to solve it. But making Shreveport a better place to live and have your business is how we should move forward, not by subsidizing something that's not needed. And again, I hope that you'll let me speak after you make your vote so that I can address which way we're going to go.
Swain.
Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give me your profession, your career, your credentials again. Tell me what do you do? What is your credentials? You're a planner and what else? An architect?
An architect. I hold a license in Louisiana for architecture. There is no license for planning. I graduated first in my class in the last semester at Cornell. I have been involved in trying to.
Tell me what projects were you involved in developing in Shreveport? What projects in Shreveport have you been involved in developing?
They have not been developed.
You have not developed any projects in Shreveport?
What I'm trying to say is I have been vocal on trying to get it done.
You've been vocal in trying to get it done?
Correctly.
Okay. Did I hear you say?
Here are some examples. On a couple of parish schools, I did some site planning and stopped the parish on the big lot they had acquired for cutting down all the trees that they should have waited till the building is designed and then cut the trees. The airport, I was the lead designer on the airport before this last edition, the H plan. It was a new way to do an airport. When Delta Airlines went to Little Rock.
Let me interrupt you 1 second. I only have a few minutes, but I was trying to ascertain some of your major projects so I could feel confident in
You want planning?
No, that's fine. Outside of Shreveport, what projects have you was involved in developing outside of Shreveport?
I'll have to think.
Okay, let me ask you this. I would allow you time.
I have some of my sculpture at 3 museums in 3 different states.
So let me ask you one other question. You said that you felt that the casinos was detrimental to.
No, I did not say that.
What did you say about the casino?
I said that there was a plan developed on how to have 2 boats down there that would just be great for the city and for all kinds of other developments. A very wealthy person heard about it and saw it and came here and talked to people who had created it, and he was told to go to the mayor, and she wouldn't even meet with him.
There are 2 boats down there. There are 2 boats.
Yeah, and it's a mess.
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
You would rather they not be there?
No, I'd rather it be done right. You don't, but I would rather it be done right, and it could be done right. The public wasn't involved.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you.
Let me
Thank you, Mr.
answer
Mayor.
one other part of the question. When the first boat was coming here, I read the agreement about that thick, and I found things in there, and I went to council and tried to correct them. They didn't believe me, and I opened it up, and
I mean,
it
you do know that at one point, those 2 casino boats employed over 3,000 people. You are aware of that, right?
but you could do it better, and it would employ 5,000 people.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
a lot of them,
thank you.
local businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Pointer. That concludes your remarks.
Marcel Minor.
Good evening, councilmen and women, staff.
Mr. Minor, your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Marcel Minor, 1301 Coates Bluff Drive. Okay. I'd like to start by making a brief statement. I own a local marketing company, a black-owned business. When I first heard about the Cross Bayou project, at face value, it sounds like a great opportunity. And in the circles that I network with, I've been oftentimes the only person that has said anything positive about the project, because I believe, based on what I've seen in this city, we need to do something positive. Something positive to our downtown especially. I was inspired when a few months back, the coalition pushing the Cross Bayou project were saying things like African American business involved, because I think it's something very important to our city with the percentage of African Americans we have here. I was inspired when I saw the opportunity of the beautification that would be done to the downtown, and I still believe something needs to be done. However, after speaking positively about this project, and after the presentation months ago, I was pulled to the side. And I mind you that I'm a businessman and that I'm an opportunist, so I listened. In my opinion, if this coalition still can prove that they can positively produce what they so eloquently said in their presentation, then I will support it regardless of my involvement. I just want you all to know that there's no bias here. In my opinion, for my network to support this, African American participation is paramount. I remember reading about Mayor Maynard Jackson and how he had a strong constitution when it came to African American business participation in Atlanta, Georgia. I would love to see the city I'm raising my children in to take notes from the past successes of others and do whatever it takes to make that happen, even talking to this coalition. And if the decision is made to move forward with this project, that you would hold them to everything positive I've heard said about this project. Now, after saying that, I must say this too. I'm relatively new to this city. I've been here for 6 years now. I've ran my own business. I'm 34 years old. I've ran my own business since I was 23, and I've been very successful. I'm saying that to say, and I really ask that you all humble yourselves, because you may be a little taken back by what I'm about to say. Only one person up here that I know of has ever owned a business. And what I know about owning a business is you have to take chances. You have to take risks, and you have to talk. And if you don't talk, nothing's going to happen. Okay? I like to remind you all that you all are elected officials. That means you have to be reelected. And there's nothing wrong with going along with something because there's black leadership involved. I've seen person after person come up here, black man after black man, state a case. I've been coming to council meetings for months now, and it does seem that this city is divided. It shouldn't be. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But at the end of the day, it is true.
Sir, your time is up.
Mr. Chairman,
We've been consistent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Manor, are you clear on what this resolution is ordering the mayor to do?
Possibly you can correct my understanding. My understanding is that you all will be voting today if you're going to be moving forward with negotiations over what's going to take place with a Cross Bayou project. I think if it's voted down, then nothing is going to happen, of course. Nobody else has a plan. I haven't seen anyone else bring a plan to the table. So if there is a plan that's brought to the table, it was in a master plan that Ms. Irma beautifully articulated that should happen. Then I think that something needs to happen. There's no question about that. I think that just from face value, this city does need some economic growth. I think that everyone here is in agreement with that. So to shut off negotiations by voting something down, just when you have to talk more about it, I think it's counterproductive. And I will say this, and this is my personal opinion, it drives me to think, what is the motivation behind it?
Okay. Well, thank you. I wanted, Mr. Manor, I wanted, you said earlier that you would support it if you knew that all of the particulars was going to actually come to fruition. And I wanted to be clear that, and you answered the question correctly, and the fact that this resolution, now, let me be clear. The mayor has the prerogative as the mayor to do and talk to anybody he want to talk to.
Okay.
This resolution carries a little bit more significance to it because when he engaged in the discussion, he's going to use the fact that the council who represents the city is backing him up on what he is negotiating.
Sure.
Nothing will happen in regards to land acquisition, remediation of contaminated riverfront property. It only allows the mayor to enter into a good faith conversation, which would transition into a negotiation of some sort, using the premise that the city council gave him the authority, nothing more, nothing less.
So that's what the vote would do?
That nothing more, it has no premise for the mayor to move beyond ascertaining what you just requested. I want to know what it is that's going to be in this. It would transition into another resolution or a master plan development of that project to the extent that we would know. Every question, every stone would be turned over, that this body will not accept anything less than what's in the interest of this city. And any talk of what was said in social media and in other breezeways is premature. And the mayor have said he understands that.
I agree.
And the council clerk have stated that more than once that's the premise of the order. The order is to support the fact that we want to see if this project is feasible, and that the mayor, we are legislators, he's the administrator. It pronounces different, it means different. Legislate, administrate. It's only he has a responsibility to enter into any discussion and to make it clear to this body what it is that we would be obligating ourselves to if and when we get to that point. It's a complicated situation, but it's a high level. It's a very high level. But I'm saying that I have a little time left on the council. I came on the council excited, very excited about the possibilities of this city and how we can be more progressive and being more inclusive to get things done.
Sure.
But sadly, we're no better off today than we were 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm saying that I don't want to lead this council saying that we didn't get nothing done. in the sense that we didn't even allow conversations to happen without our input. That's a travesty for us to be in this position. So I just wanted to address you, sir, and I appreciate you coming.
May I respond to some of your conjecture?
Well, I really don't. I just wanted to say you answered my question, and I appreciate it very much.
I would like to make 10
You can make,
seconds.
okay, one response, please.
Yes, sir. I think that what you said makes perfect sense. And I think that if this body is supposed to be legislating, that it would be prudent, at least, to hear out what someone or a business or an opportunity has to say. Of course it would. And it would remove the appearance of any impropriety.
Great statement. Thank you, sir.
Philip Roseman.
Thank you. Philip Roseman, 510 Longleaf Road. Let me just preface what I am going to offer to say that I feel it's inappropriate for individual council persons to be denigrated in this area, in this place. I think it's inappropriate for councilmen to denigrate citizens in this place. I believe that a difference of opinion between well-meaning people is a difference of opinion between well-meaning people. And so with that said, I'm Philip Roseman. I'm a physician. I was co-chair of the Citizens Advisory Group of the Master Plan. From that work, I have a working knowledge of the context of Cross Bayou development over the years. A couple of years ago, I publicly spoke in favor of Mayor Tyler's proposed plan for Cross Bayou that failed in this chamber. I don't pretend to be an expert in commercial real estate development, but I am concerned about the expectations of certain components being offered in the plan. And I need to be realistic about expectations and assumptions. Let me summarize quick personal thoughts. I've been involved in school choice, charter school issues for the last 20 years. In order to build a charter school, you have to be chartered and supported by either the Caddo Parish School Board or Bessie Board, and the politics of this is difficult at best in our area. I think if we were to speak to the school board or school superintendent, we could get better understanding of these issues. There's questions about building a new Caddo courthouse, questions about a new Louisiana State office building. It requires money from taxpayers. It empties a hub building in the downtown area, creates no new jobs. But I guess from my perspective, the biggest concern I have is about building a new huge residential area at Cross Bayou that will likely add more empty housing into the Shreveport market that's already saturated with homes on sale across the community. Yesterday there was a Biz Magazine article that published bad news for Shreveport employment, good news for Louisiana. Louisiana has private sector employment up 11,000 jobs over the last year. Shreveport MSA, quote, lost 2,800 jobs from December 2018, another 2,100 since November 2019. With this economy, I just feel like it's hard to believe there'll be enough people to fill all the added housing and current vacant properties, and would warn about that. Each of you who believe and build it and they will come, you just have to ask, come from where and come for what? I am hopeful that what was said in this chamber is the result of emotion. I'm confident that what is described as a motive for those who oppose this project is not accurate. Thank you very much.
Dr. Roseman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Council Member.
How are you, Doctor?
I'm fine.
Good. In all due respect, I want to again say, Gateway put a menu out there of some possibilities, some ideas. The mayor will, if we allow the conversation to start, if you feel that the menu is too big, if you go into a buffet restaurant, and you got choices of everything on the menu, but you're not gonna eat it all. You're gonna choose what you feel like you can consume. It's just, if the mayor, and I trust the mayor. He's the mayor. He's the only mayor we got. He's gonna be the mayor for the next 3 years. And I trust, if you feel and others feel that the menu that has been offered is too big, he would ascertain that and reject it as well. He's not gonna obligate us to something that we are not, don't have the ability to assume. I'm confident of that. But we won't know that unless he gather into a conversation. So I'm saying again that I understand that we have almost put the cart before the horse in a way. But all the things that has been presented, and we, again, as the author of this resolution, was directed with caution on what we and how we would word it, so that it would not, the appearance is not the issue. The fact that it will only allow and authorize the mayor to go forward with support of a body of legislators. And I think he deserved that. And again, Shreveport is changing. And I don't have to be a prophet to see the future. I saw Ms. Dawson here earlier, who's worked with United Way, and her specialty is working and dealing with the Alice report, which they come through. And if you are familiar with the Alice report, then you know what I'm saying when I say Shreveport is changing. In property that has been vacant, and it don't appear that there's no other ideas to utilize that property. And most of the major development is going Southern Loopway. Then most cities are rebuilding downtown areas to bring back a degree of commerce and housing. And I'm just saying, I would like to see the conversation. And if the mayor doesn't feel that it's realistic to go further than what you get somewhere, to go somewhere else. If he's going to Washington, not Washington, but if he's going to Washington State, he gets to Dallas, he said, wait a minute, you got to get to Dallas, then you got to get to El Paso, then you got to get to Phoenix, and I'm just saying, if anywhere along that road that he feels that this is not feasible, he's going to cut it off. Do that make sense?
You know, I think you and I, I know, we both have worked a long time and worked hard for this community and building this community. And I've done that for the last 20, 30 years too, just like you.
I'm familiar with you.
And I'm not a lawyer. And I look at this and I say, they talk about it's a non-binding resolution, but it says on the paperwork it's a binding resolution. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. It just sounds different to me. And I will say, you know, that I think the components, all I've heard is these components that I spoke to. Okay, yes. These are the components that have been outlined and said this is what this is going to be about. And what I'm saying is, you know, is that we need to be very careful about that because there are unintended consequences to the things that we do. And that's all I'm speaking to. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective with this group. I appreciate your work. I appreciate all of your work. This is hard work.
Yes, sir.
But I do ask that you think about these components and the perspective on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Liz Swain.
Good afternoon, everyone. Liz Swain, 416 Cotton Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. First, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I got a look from Levette on that. I know that you are not hearing that very often. So I do want to thank you. And Councilman Bradford?
Yes.
We had a conversation yesterday, and I would like to share again that I was both angry and very sad to hear your comments yesterday, and I shared that with you. I am angry and I am sad when any comments are directed to any of you in regards to your work that fall to hurtful or threatening or racist. We are better than that, and we should be better than that. My organizations, as you well know, represent downtown Shreveport, and we do it because we love it. We represent property owners, we represent businesses, business people, residents, all the people who utilize downtown Shreveport to live, work, and play. I have 2 boards, holy smokes, 2 of them filled with impressive, smart, savvy people. These are bankers, these are CFOs, these are business owners, property owners. These are people who, again, live and work in downtown Shreveport. They have, each and every person on my boards, looked at all of the information that has been available to all of us in the public realm about Cross Bayou. They've looked at the presentations, they have seen the presentations by Gateway. They have seen the information that has been printed. They have read the articles, they have seen the columns, they have read the information that is in your packet. Every one of them have come to the same conclusion unanimously that this project is very flawed. They believe that this project is going to hurt downtown, not help, hurt downtown. They believe this project will move jobs around, move them from one place to the other, as some speakers have said. And they believe that the chances are better than good, that this is going to cost taxpayers significant dollars in the long run. The principals in the Cross Bayou Group have stated in public conversation on more than one occasion that they have spent $5 million to get to this point, If today's resolution passes, it gives them redress in a legal fashion. If there is no agreement reached, they can say that the city did not negotiate in good faith, and they can seek legal redress, and that would put citizens on the line as well. There are too many unknowns, there are too many unanswered questions, there are too many reasons to oppose this, and we ask you to do that today. Thank you.
Ms. Swain, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Swain.
Ms. Swain.
Let me thank you for our conversation yesterday. It was very kind.
Absolutely,
very
Councilman.
kind. I can say without very confident that we've been friends for over 25 years.
We have been.
And that we served together on various boards, commissions. You was a part of a mayoral administration, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
That was Mayor Keith Hightower.
Mayor Keith Hightower. Mayor Keith Hightower moves this city forward in spite of some opposition. Are you aware that there was opposition for Mayor Hightower to engage in building a convention center and hotel?
I am, yes, sir,
Yes,
aware
sir.
of that.
You're aware of that? That Mayor Hightower faced opposition to moving City Hall from Texas Avenue down here?
Yes, sir.
You aware of that? Okay. But it started with a conversation, both those projects. And there's other projects. And I told you yesterday that I was very commendable of the administration that you served in. It moved the city forward. It generated revenue. It was said that this project would cost taxpayers money. You are aware that the convention center is costing taxpayers money even now.
I am aware of that, yes, sir.
So the risk of doing it and the benefit of doing it is,
yes.
I don't regret it, and you don't either. So my question is, let me ask you one other question, and
Yes,
I don't mean to be personal, but you can answer it. If you don't feel comfortable answering, then you don't have to. You said you are structured where two boards are part of your apparatus.
Yes, sir.
The Downtown Development Authority and what's the other?
Downtown Shreveport Development Corporation, it's a 501c4.
Okay. Tell me the makeup of those two boards, racially wise.
Well, the makeup of the DDA board is appointed by you, by the commissioner, by the council members, and these are appointments that come through the mayor.
We confirm, I think.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And we have, are you asking, would you like the names of the
No.
Okay.
I was asking, black, white, Hispanic, women, men.
We have on my DDA board, we have Candace Batiste, who was here today. We have Stan Varner, Logan Schreiber. Okay, I'm sorry, it's 3 and 4. 3 black members and 4 white members currently, and one female.
Okay. And all members agreed that this was not a good project?
It was a unanimous vote, yes, sir.
Unanimous vote, okay. So, and you're familiar with the Alice report as well?
I'm sorry,
The
familiar?
Alice report?
Yes, sir.
And you see the trending of Shreveport. Where do you see downtown Shreveport in 5 years? And then, what do you see Shreveport in 5 years?
Well, I'm going to speak for downtown Shreveport because that's what we do every single day, is we work toward the betterment of downtown for the betterment of our community.
Yes.
And downtown is coming back, and we are coming back, Councilman, incrementally, and I hear people laughing. Incremental is not a bad word. Incremental only means that we are coming back slowly and steadily with local investment, with local dollars, with local businesses who are taking these wonderful old buildings that have so much life left in them and rehabbing them for things like residential that we're seeing in multiple places downtown, for retail, for residential, for office space. But at the same time, we have 1 million square feet of vacant space downtown that we desperately need to rehab and put back into commerce for the good of our city. When taxes are paid downtown on these properties, it doesn't go into a pot that says downtown. It's taxes that go into the general fund to help things in every single council district. That's why our downtown needs to be strong.
I agree. I look forward. We promised that we'll continue our conversation.
Absolutely.
And we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Miles. John Miles.
Hi, I'm John Miles, 1332 Madison Avenue, Shreveport. I know it's white wealth, black label. But I come to address, I would like to have black wealth in Shreveport as well. But I see we don't address those issues. But I just want to talk about these raggedy streets in Shreveport, Hearn Avenue, Murphy Street, and we know the rest of them. And it seemed like we're playing on my intelligence when they told me to call the mayor's office and try to get that situated. And she played on my intelligence by just putting asphalt in the seams of concrete and saying that should suffice and satisfy me, but it don't. And we taxpayers, and we want those streets fixed. Because these black women, poor black women with these children, they going up and down these raggedy streets, tearing their front ends up. Y'all know they can't afford to get them fixed, right? Okay. So we want those streets fixed, and we want them fixed in a proper and a great manner. And we don't want to escape on nothing. We want these streets fixed right. And if they don't get fixed right, I'm just going to keep coming down here with more potent language and make sure we get these streets fixed in the black community. Okay, so y'all can give me a reply on how y'all feel, or am I saying the wrong thing, or what? So I'm here to listen to what y'all got to say about these darn streets. Okay, now talk.
Let me just, can I say
Okay,
this?
say it.
Let me tell you this. I'm gonna say this.
I said then.
We had a bond proposal last year, and the citizens rejected the bond proposal, which had over $40 million in street repairs. Now, Miss, I'm gonna say that the city and the residents of this city has a right to determine what is best for them. And if they rejected the bond proposal, then unlike you, they didn't see streets as a priority. And I'm saying we cannot.
Well, in the white folks' neighborhood, you redoing the streets over there?
No.
I mean, the white people better than the blacks in Shreveport?
You missed my point.
No, I ain't missed no point.
I'm saying that the funds that we receive in our operational budget is not sufficient to repair streets. We have not had a major street overlay project. I'm not familiar with Line Avenue.
And Uri Drive, all this fixed, beautiful.
Okay, I can't speak to that, but I just want to let you know that we had money in a budget, in a bond proposal for streets, and the citizens rejected it, and we're gonna do the best we can with what we have.
Well, how did I get that streets fixed and
I
we
don't
didn't
know.
get out?
I don't have.
That's racism, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, you need to find out.
Okay, I will.
And we also need to address black wealth in Shreveport. We need to have some rich black people in development and everything. I tried to get a lot downtown, bidded on it. I mean, paid my $300. They sent me my money back. It ain't want no black people downtown, obviously. And I just want a resolution on that as well, because I have aspirations and I have visions to build that area up as well. Just like y'all white folks, I got visions too. And like I said, I wanted to do it to help the black people. You know, with schools and all that. And at the same time, we need to start celebrating Malcolm X's birthday. And we need to teach that into these darn schools. Then there won't be no black on black crime, because they'll know their true history instead of this frivolous lies they're being taught every day. I'll be back again.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
done.
Miles. Marvin Birthday Boy Muhammad. We're not singing though. We're drawing the line there.
Is that the resolution, Councilwoman?
Be it hereby resolved that it is Mr. Marvin Muhammad's birthday and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Marvin Muhammad, 2808, Percy D. Wilson. Dr. Neely Fuller said that if you don't understand racism, what it is and how it works, then everything else that you think you understand will only confuse you. In 1836, in 1839, we elected the first mayor in the city of Shreveport. He took over from August McNeil, who was then the president of Shrevetown. In this history of almost 200 years, we had 12 years of black mayoral leadership. Councilman Furry, the now chairman, proposed a city charter review, which he says is now being withdrawn. We spoke on this 2 weeks ago. At the very core of this city charter review was to strip the mayor of any powers and to make a new position of city manager. What does that have to do with today? Everything. I was listening to City Councilman Bradford comments on yesterday, and I tossed and turned him with the racial overtones. But he said something today that hit home. He said that this MOU gives the mayor an opportunity to sit down and have a discussion. See, there's a white overcast that says that we want this black mayor to fail. We have to just say that. This mayor has about 2.5 years into his administration to do something that's of good to help the city of Shreveport. At the 2.5 year mark, all bets are over. Everybody's going to be thinking about their own political careers. That's what he has. He has about 18 months left to do anything of significance. To those who speak against the Cross Bayou project, I haven't heard not one of them propose anything to help the underserved in this community. I haven't heard one suggest a revenue bond that the administration could push and advocate for, and that this council could approve. Say, I don't know, 85 million that could help alleviate streets, drainage, lights, sidewalks, that would generate economic development. I haven't heard one of them say that we need a neighborhood empowerment zone that would designate our communities as under. I'm sorry.
Your time has gone up.
Can I get 90 more seconds?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Mr. Councilman Green.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, if I yield to Mr. Bradford.
Okay, he yields to you, Councilman Bradford.
Are you clear on what, and you said you were, and your knowledge of the city is always impressive. I don't know where you do your research, but you always be on point when you talk about history of this city. You seem to be knowledgeable of where we are and where we need to go. Do you feel you are?
I do.
So where do you see us in 5 years?
I see that if we don't do anything immediately, and if we do not unite as a city, that we would perish. That's what I see.
So you're saying, I think there's a scripture that says, people without vision, they perish. And you got to be, are you saying that we need to have a unified vision, or whose vision?
We have to have a vision. You know, when you're in leadership, you have to have insight and you have to have foresight. We have to develop initiatives, programs, motion that would be generational. We cannot do something to fix problems of just yesterday. We have to see into the future and do things today that would impact future generations. That's the type of leadership that we need in the city of Shreveport today, from the administration and also from the council. That's what we need.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
Would you allow Mr. Thompson to read what this particular item says and what it represents at
Good
this
idea.
time before we
Yes, good idea.
move down? I'd just like for Mr. Thompson to read to the general public, and we will have it on the record as to what this piece of legislation does. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, there's a resolution, and the now therefore be it resolved clause in the resolution says that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute for and on behalf of the city of Shreveport a binding memorandum of understanding with Gateway Louisiana LLC substantially in accordance with Exhibit A. Exhibit A is the MOU, and the purpose of the MOU, and I'm about to read from the document itself, says, the purpose of the MOU is to gather the necessary information regarding the cost to the city of entering into a public-private partnership to develop Cross Bayou. The cost is needed to determine if a cooperative endeavor agreement to form a public-private partnership for the development of Cross Bayou can meet all Louisiana state law requirements and city However, the cost is fundamental to determining if this project can move forward. It is anticipated that future memorandums of understanding will be needed before a CEA obligating the city to expend funds and/or property can be executed. This MOU does not bind the city to enter into any future agreements with Gateway, nor does it bind the city to move forward with developing Cross Bayou.
So, Mr. Thompson, from reading that, if something happened down the line and this doesn't go through, can Gateway, will they have the authority or the power to sue the city of Shreveport for any funds?
Mr. Green, Councilman Green, I don't think that I'm in a position to answer that question. We tried to develop this so that we would minimize any possibility of a lawsuit, but you never know.
Ms. Creel, do you care to comment?
I would prefer not to, since there
Thank
is pending litigation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We've concluded public comment.
We have completed public comments, and now we move to the following executive appointments to be considered today. Mr. Thompson?
Senior Risk Manager Richard Hunter.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, for confirmation.
Moved by Councilman Bradford.
Mr. Chairman, brief discussion.
Okay, I have a second by Councilman Green.
Yes, sir.
And discussion by Councilman Nicholson. Go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, I believe, based on my review of Mr. Hunter's resume, that he is well qualified to serve as risk manager of the city. My opposition to his confirmation has nothing to do with his qualifications. The reason I will vote no for Mr. Hunter's confirmation is that we already have a risk manager, and I do not believe that we need two. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Councilman Butcher.
Mayor, is the current risk manager going to stay in her position, or what are we doing?
Yes, this position is for senior risk manager, and she will report to him. And he will be the person who will be the lead as far as the city's insurance procurement and decisions that are made for that division.
So in essence, what Councilman Nicholson said is we'll really have two risk management. He'll just be the senior. Is that?
Councilman, that's not what she said. She said senior risk manager. It's not the same position.
Okay. Any further discussion? Council Vice Chair?
Ms. Creel, do you feel that there's a need for this position?
Yes, ma'am. As you can see by Mr. Hunter's resume, he has a wealth of knowledge and experience in various facets of risk management. When I initially became a member of the city's administration, it was made immediately apparent to me that there were some concerns with respect to the risk management department. And without getting into personnel issues in a public forum, I will state that I think we're all in agreement that there are some areas for improvement and some areas of an opportunity. And with regard to the most recent audit from the that was directed from the Audit and Finance Committee, it also identified some weaknesses and some things that we could do differently as a city. And so this is the administration's attempt to move in that direction. Another one of the suggestions that was made by the audit was that the risk management department be ultimately managed by the finance department and taken from under the city attorney's umbrella. That is underway. However, with the recent departure of Mr. Charles Madden, the director of finance for many years, there is now an interim director in place, and I personally feel that it would have been a little bit unfair to her to put her in a position where she had to oversee a totally new department as well as another subdivision that she would not have been accustomed to have oversight over. So I agree to maintain that oversight until mid-year so that the administration could do an evaluation and ensure that it was an appropriate time to make the switch. So again, Mr. Hunter has a wealth of knowledge. He was the strongest candidate, and I support the mayor's nomination.
Okay, thank you for that. I think I'll just also ask, Are we having to make any budget adjustments in order to fulfill this position?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's vote. The motion passes 5-2.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is the Shreveport Local Workforce Development Board. There are a number of appointments: Julie Bass, Matt LaFisha, Shelley Ulrich, Victor McGee, and John Vaughn.
Move for confirmation, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Is
Can
that
we
for
do
all of them?
all at once?
Yes, the whole board.
And I have Councilman Bradford making the motion and
Second.
the vice chair second. And any discussion? Let's vote. And that motion passes 7-0. Congratulations to all those.
The
Now,
next is the Shreveport Memorial Library Board, Dolores Litch and Brittany Turner.
So moved.
Second.
is there any discussion? Let's vote.
Together? On both?
Both
Yes.
of them.
Yes, please.
Is that okay? And that motion passes. There are no items under consent agenda for introduction or to be adopted. Mr. Thompson, please
Regular-
proceed.
Regular agenda legislation. The first is resolution number 3, a resolution to establish a charter review committee.
I move motion to remove.
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, got a discussion. Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Chairman, the city's charter, which is the constitution that governs us all, was adopted more than 40 years ago and has not been amended since 2006. Some things the council can change by ordinance, others only the voters can change by amending the charter. One example Councilman Bradford raised back in 2015 when a dispute arose between the council at that time and the prior mayor concerning the fact that the council does not have the power under the charter to hire its own counsel, its own lawyers on occasions when that becomes necessary. That's just one example of something that I think this council needs to consider changing. I think the best way to consider amending the charter is for a committee to be formed and for there to be considered discussion among members of that committee before proposed charter amendments are brought to the council for full and public discussion in this forum. Certainly, Chairman Fleury has the right to move to withdraw the legislation that he has offered, but I will at a subsequent meeting offer the same legislation and ask my colleagues to approve the formation of the committee. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Let's vote. I'm sorry, Councilman.
With you removing it, is there a need to vote, or you just remove it?
No, the rules require that there be a vote and that the vote be included in the minutes.
Thank you.
I have gingerly checked with the clerk before.
Yes, sir.
And the motion is 7.
Resolution number 4 authorizes a request to be made to the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board to seek public bids for an oil, gas, and mineral lease involving the property located in District D and described herein, and to execute the lease for certain mineral interests owned by the city of Shreveport, and to authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents related to the intent of this resolution and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilman Butcher and second by Councilman Bolton. Is that right?
Bradford.
Bradford, I'm sorry. Any discussion? Please vote. And that motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 5 approves the Tomac Glass Partners for participation in the Industrial Tax Exemption Program
So moved.
located at
Second.
2940 Westburg, Coons
Motion by the
Industrial.
chair, second by Councilman Bolton. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion is approved. 7.
Resolution number 6 authorizes the mayor to execute a binding memorandum of understanding between the city of Shreveport and Gateway Louisiana LLC and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Bradford, second by Councilman Green. Any discussion?
Councilman, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Councilman Nichols.
Mr. Chairman, I will not repeat the extensive discussion that members of the public have had here today or my remarks that I've made to the media in recent weeks concerning this proposal. But I do want to emphasize that my most serious concern about Gateway Development Corporation's or consortium's proposal is the possibility of the city acquiring a highly contaminated scrapyard. Acquiring that scrapyard would subject the city to significant and as yet unquantified liability. And it would be the height of irresponsibility, in my view, for this council or for the mayor to authorize acquisition of that property. Doing so could result in a liability far beyond our means to pay. And so I hope that we will bear that in mind in voting on this proposal. Thank you.
Councilman Bradford?
Councilman Nicholson, this resolution doesn't say that. Why would you think that we would be assuming contaminated property when we have not gotten to that point yet? That's premature to say that, isn't it?
Will you yield, Councilman Bradford?
Yes, sir. I just want to.
Every discussion I've had with representatives of Gateway has included the proposal that the city acquire that scrapyard, and that is why I have particular concern.
No, I share with that. Okay, and again, my developing this resolution, and when I said that, I met with the clerk and the city attorney and Danielle 4 times. I was being very cautious to develop a resolution that would only give the mayor some backup when he talks to these Gateway people. No commitment to acquiring any property is in this resolution. The clerk just read the details of it. And I'm just wondering why we continue to promote the narrative that is not at this point a part of the resolution. Mayor, are you clear? Now I ask you that for the 3rd time, acquiring, doing anything other than coming to some resolution about the feasibility of this moving to another step. It's not in your domain. Are you clear about that?
Councilman, I understand what's going on.
Okay, and the clerk just read what the resolution says. So no expenses of this city would be authorized. Now, if and when the mayor feels like there may be some due diligence in that regards, then he would have to come back to this body to do anything other than what the whereas, therefore, let be resolved says. And I'm sort of taken that we keep promoting something that is not at that point yet. We keep talking about issues and items that Gateway may have on their website, but like I said, it's a menu. We just walked into a buffet, and they can throw anything out there they want, but it would be determined what part of that menu we want to accept. And I promise you, I would not accept us assuming any property that we would be responsible for cleaning up and the expenses of our citizens would bear the burden. I will not do that. That would be defined at the right time. So I just hope that we will consider what this motion is and not over exaggerate what we're expecting at this point. It's not there. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. I'm really concerned because it keeps happening. It happened on social media, happened on Kia Radio, it happened throughout the process that we are talking about something that is so premature. I mean, I'm talking about maybe months or years down the line before we get to the point of talking about what we're going to assume and what liability we're going to accept and reject. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead. Councilman Butcher's recognized.
And I'm asking this, and for transparency, I met with Mr. Pratt and Mr. English, had, I think, a very robust conversation. I gave my concerns. I touch probably 40 to 50 real estate transactions a month in this city. I know the market. I am a little concerned about one aspect of it, and it's the residential part, and I think I shared that with Mr. English. I asked him if there's any way. I'm not particularly for moving the state building to that location, but if that's what the state wants, of course, I would love to see a crane down there, if that would happen. And I asked Mr. English, just for the record, if we could start with that portion of it. And I think that's where you're talking about the negotiations, where it's a menu.
Yes.
I understand that. My question is this, and I never really got this answer. What is the difference between the binding MOU and the existing MOU that was passed by the previous council? We read the existing, or the proposed resolution. Is there any way that the council clerk could pull up the resolution that was passed? Would that be too time consuming to see the difference?
Well, I can respond to it because I sponsored that legislation as well.
But I'd like to hear word for word, what's the difference? But go ahead, I'd like to hear your response.
It was 10 months after a resolution of, actually it was a resolution, but it was a cooperative endeavor agreement that the city will develop that property. The anchor would have been a basketball arena, and they were saying that the basketball arena.
I'm talking about the MOU between Gateway and
No, well, I mean, I'm saying, but I'm coming to that. So when Gateway said we can do something down there, the non-binding was that go and bring forward your vision of what you can do. They did that in October. That's when I had a meeting, small and emergency task force meeting, that they bought, and their partners came, and they bought investors. I think it was maybe a dozen people that said that we are in agreement that we can put resources toward this project. That was to satisfy the first non-binding MOU, to satisfy my committee, myself and my committee, that they could because they didn't have no evidence that they could do what they proposed that they can do. But the evidence came in the October meeting at the Small and Emergency Business Task Force, where they showed us through the various entities and developers and financiers that came into town to make their presentation. And from that, the committee members, and it was a consensus of the committee members, that we should look at the opportunity to go to the next step. And that's why this non-binding resolution came forward to say to Gateway, now the mayor would be directed to negotiate with you in good faith, and that all of the things that you proposed is subject to rejection or acceptance by this body. And the mayor was in the meeting, and the mayor met them, and I again was very careful and cautious to present my idea to the council clerk and to the attorneys. That's who, I'm not a lawyer. They helped me develop the legislation to satisfy what I felt was legal and what was, within the city rules and charter. And that's what this document is. Now, the whereas is not the order. And the clerk just read that. The whereas is not the order. The order is, let it be therefore resolved that we authorize the mayor to enter to this negotiation, with subject to coming back to this council in intervals of progress reports. And at any time that we feel like we are not in a position or have the ability to do any of these things that would be talked about with the mayor and his administration, we can then null and void everything. null and void everything. The mayor is limited to what he could assume, no liability to this city in regards to this resolution. It was carefully drafted. It was carefully drafted. It was carefully drafted. Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Previous question, Mr. Chairman.
I got a question.
I'd like to recognize Councilman Bowman.
So, Mayor, you're not buying land or spending money or none of that, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Councilman, we're
All
not.
right, that's all I need to know. I'm ready to vote.
All right. Okay, please vote. Motion fails. 3-4. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Order of the day, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Order. Went too fast, sorry.
All right. Can we take a minute while they clear up? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we're now under resolution number 7. It establishes guidelines for the approval or disapproval by the Shreveport City Council for industrial tax exemption applications submitted to LED for projects located in the city of Shreveport.
Move to postpone, Mr. Chairman.
Move to postpone.
Second.
Second by Councilman Butcher. If there's any discussion, let's please vote. Motion to postpone, 7-0.
Resolutions 8 and 9 have been adopted. Resolution number 10 encourages the Metropolitan Planning Commission to pass a resolution to halt the acceptance of new annexation applications for a period of 12 months.
Move to postpone.
Second.
Second by Councilman Nicholson. Any discussion? Let's vote, please. Motion 7-0. Pass.
Mr. Chairman, we're now in the introduction of resolutions. There was one that was added. It's not on your agenda. It's resolution number 11, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for water supply and sewage disposal between the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, Pratt Paper LLC, Pratt Recycling LLC, and BFI Waste Services LLC, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Is there a motion and a second to introduce?
Motion and second.
So-
Wait a minute. Councilman Butcher, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll ask whatever after we introduce it.
Okay, now, is that different from the others? Or is that just a resolution?
This is a resolution that was
Oh,
added.
that's the only resolution?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
one that was added.
Yeah, we move.
Second.
For introduction.
Moved by Councilman Rapp, second by Councilman Nicholson.
Now we're at the ordinances, right?
No, we've already.
No, we're done.
We're now at the introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to February the 11th. Ordinance number 3 amends the 2020 Downtown Entertainment Economic Development Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance number 4 amends the 2020 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance number 5 amends section 50-157, spitting in public places of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Ordinance 6 closes and abandons an additional portion of Sugar Leaf Trail in the Lynbrook subdivision, units 5 and 5A in section 35 Township 17 North, range 14 West, and otherwise provides with respect thereto. Ordinance number 7 is a zoning matter, case number 19-3, 13-C. It rezones property located in the northwest corner of Linwood Avenue and Inner Loop Expressway, extending approximately 134 feet west of Ponderosa Trail and 145 feet north of Sugar Leaf Trail from R17 single-family residential district, and C3 to general commercial district to OR office research district. Ordinance number 8 is a zoning matter, case number 19-425C. It rezones property located in the northwest corner of Pickett Street, approximately 170 feet southeast of Fairfield Avenue, from RUC, Urban Core Residential District, to CUV, Urban Village Commercial District. And ordinance number 9 is a zoning matter, case number 19-467C. It rezones property located approximately 365 feet east of Fern Loop, from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 Commercial Corridor Commercial District.
Move for introduction.
Councilman Bradford moved for introduction. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Nixon.
Mr. Chairman, we're now into ordinances on second reading and final passage. Ordinance number 161 amends Chapter 10, Article 4, Division 2, Section 10-175 of the Code of Ordinances regarding hours of operation for retail dealer of alcohol, non-downtown zoning districts, and otherwise provided with respect thereto.
Move to table, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to table. Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Green. Any discussion? Let's vote.
You know what, table or take it out?
Table.
I'd like to table it, Councilman. Bowman.
No such luck today.
But thank you.
Motion to table has been approved 7-0.
Ordinance number 1 amends Article 5, annexations of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances relative to annexation of property and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Motion by Councilman Nixon, second by Councilman Green. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to ascertain the difference between this. I didn't. Who could?
I think that somebody might want to come forward, Alan, or somebody, but I think that this just brings the Code of Ordinances in line with the UDC.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to made second, right? Yeah, let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Ordinance number 2 amends various articles and sections of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code and otherwise provides with respect thereto.
So move.
Councilman Bradford?
Second.
Councilman Green? Any discussion? Councilman Green, any discussion?
No, sir.
All right, let's vote. And that passes 7-0. Mr. Thompson, do we
Under-
have any table legislation?
There's one item I'm not aware that anybody wants to remove it from the table. If not, we have no appeals, Mr. Chairman. We are now into reports from officers, boards, and committees.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Nixon.
Mr. Chairman, in the next month or so, the Audit and Finance Committee will have a meeting at a time convenient to its members to discuss the progress the Finance Department has made responding to the concerns identified in the most recent external audit report and several other matters, and I will coordinate with members of that committee to set a time. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Perkins?
Is this my period to comment, or do I wait till the
No,
end?
we got the clerk's report.
Okay,
and
sorry, I'm gonna wait.
We'll bounce over to you,
I'm
okay?
gonna wait till the final, my fault. Jump in.
Any more reports from committee, Councilman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, my report is, I won't be here with you all on Monday, but it will be my birthday, so my party will be announced by way of Facebook.
Well, you have to add me on Facebook then, because you wouldn't accept my ad last time. How are we gonna trade jokes about fish grease if you're not even gonna, now I'm hot as fish grease. So you won't add me on Facebook so I can get invited to this party. That's so rude. That is so rude.
I'm gonna take somebody out.
Okay,
Somebody
Mr.
got
Thompson, there's clerk report.
Somebody got to go.
Since the mayor has other comments, I'll forego.
You cut yours short, okay. Mayor, it's on you.
Yes, so earlier, I'll be remiss not to talk about, we lost a sheriff's deputy this morning. He passed away, Deputy Jacob Bergeron. So I want to make sure that we pray for his family as well and send our condolences. And we are going to offer our OSI officers are going to offer to serve some of the sheriff's shifts so that they can go to the funeral. They can attend the funeral. And Chief, did you want to add anything to that, or was it? You want anything, comments? Okay, all right. Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else, Mayor?
Nope,
Anything
that's all I got, Chairman.
else?
Thank you.
Councilman Bradford, Councilman, you have anything, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the mayor, administration, some council members, Shreveport Police Department. On last Thursday, my alma mater, the Booker T. Washington High School, celebrated its 70th birthday. On January 23rd, 1950, the students from Central Colored High School marched from the Weinstock location down to the new $1.5 million facility that was constructed. It was a national project because it was the largest African-American school that was built in Louisiana at the time at 1.5 million. We replicated that route on Thursday. We had a escort from the Shreveport Police Department Motorcycle Bureau. It was very impressive. We had 10 students who were still alive who marched in that transition. We also had only one teacher who was one of the original teachers at Booker T. Washington. Mr. Colin Malloy was our Grand Marshal. The mayor presented a resolution proclaiming Thursday, January 23rd as Booker T. Washington Day in the city of Shreveport. It was a great affair. It was an all-day affair. Students was proud to hear the history. They allowed me to make comments. And while it don't mean anything, I need to say it again today. I told them on Thursday that out of the history of Booker T. Washington, I am the first and only city councilman who's in Shreveport that was a graduate of Booker T. Washington and who serves in the district in which Booker T. Washington sits. We had a outstanding day of activities, and I just want to say how proud I am to have been a student and graduate of Booker T. Washington. And it was a school to behold, and it's still a school to behold, but we want to restore the legacy that we had the privilege of experiencing. And the new principal there, Dr. Crystal Barnes, has made that known because I've been in and out of Booker T. Washington since I graduated. I'm a part of the Booker T. Washington Alumni Foundation. I'm a member, a board member there, and I can say that the climate at Booker T. Washington now is remembrance of what we experienced, and I'm proud of Dr. Barnes, and I'm proud of the administration and principals and teachers of Booker T. Washington. Again, I just want to thank those who participated, and we need to continue to promote education in this city, but a partner to that is that we got to create jobs and opportunities so that once they leave Booker T. Washington, leave Byrd, they leave Captain Shreve, that they would have a reason to stay home after they leave college. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Say it, Willie. Say it.
Once a line, always a line.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green.
Certainly, Councilman Bradford, I'd like to congratulate you all, and I read about it. You didn't invite me to come. I guess it was just for you and your district, but anyway. Chief, you still here? What I need to do to get that motorcycle motorcade for Monday to take me over to Newt's, as far as I want to go. So.
Not to Newt's.
Maybe for your birthday, huh?
So, see if you can get with me and we'll work something out. All right. Thank you, Mr.
Let me
Chairman.
also thank the sports, Mr. Washington's gone, but Sports Train also provided a bus for those.
Well, maybe I might take Sports Train.
There you go.
Yeah.
We can pick you up your crossing guard spot.
Yeah, maybe I might get.
They can pick you and Mr. Fleury
Maybe I
up
might
your-
get Sports. But
your
James, you want to
crossing
go with
guard.
me on the bus?
Yeah, I
We'll
do.
go on the bus.
There you go.
I like kale salad.
And we could get that
Jan, you
school
have anything
crossing
else?
job. Other than that school
Just a
crossing
little bit.
job, yes, sir. Yes, let's go, car accident.
Anyone else? There's no executive session. Well, I did want to say something, but.
It's your first day as chair officially, you might
Gary,
as well.
Willie, you can't say something? Give us
He done
5
said
more
enough.
minutes.
Wait a minute, you want to say?
He done said enough.
Don't you have to go watch Empire?
All right. We just-